She married a monster to survive. He broke every rule to keep her. Ilara Vance had 30 days before the banks took everything. Then Dante Moretti walked through her door, a man the city whispered about in fear, offering salvation wrapped in chains. 1 year as his wife. No love, no touch, just a contract signed in desperation. But in his world of blood and power, contracts mean nothing when obsession takes root. And when his past returns to claim him, Ilara discovers the truth. Her father's death, Dante's empire, and this marriage were never coincidence. They were fate dressed as tragedy. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The rain came down like judgment. Ilara stood at the edge of her father's grave, mud creeping over the edges of her cheap black heels, and watched them lower the only person who'd ever given a damn about her into the ground. The cemetery was empty except for her and the 2 workers who couldn't meet her eyes. No friends, no extended family, just her and a hole in the earth that seemed to swallow more than just a body. She didn't cry, couldn't afford to. Tears were a luxury for people who had time to fall apart, and she was running out of everything: time, money, options. The priest had finished 10 minutes ago, rushing through the generic script like he had somewhere better to be. Maybe he did. Ilara had paid for the bottom-tier service, the kind that came with a grave plot barely big enough and words that meant nothing. Her father deserved better, deserved a mahogany casket instead of pine, deserved a ceremony where people actually showed up, deserved a daughter who hadn't failed him so completely in the end. But deserving didn't mean getting. The workers finished filling the grave, packed up their tools without a word, and left. Their truck sputtered down the narrow cemetery road, red taillights blurring in the rain until even that disappeared. Ilara was alone. She stared at the fresh earth, at the cheap temporary marker that bore her father's name in plastic letters. James Vance, beloved father. The funeral home had suggested the wording. She'd been too numb to argue. The rain soaked through her coat. Her fingers were ice. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Probably another creditor, another threat, another countdown to the moment they ripped away the last piece of her father she had left. The house. The only home she'd ever known. She pulled out the phone, blocked number. She let it ring until it stopped. 30 days, that's what the foreclosure notice said. 30 days to come up with $60,000 or lose everything. The medical bills alone had drained what little savings her father had. The funeral costs had finished the job. She had maybe $300 left in her account, and a week until rent came due on the apartment she'd moved into when her father got too sick to climb stairs. Ilara turned away from the grave. Her car was parked at the far end of the cemetery, an old Honda with a check engine light that had been on for 6 months. She walked, her heels sinking into wet grass with each step, and tried not to think about how thoroughly her life had collapsed. Her father had worked his whole life. Honest work, hard work, construction, plumbing, whatever paid. He'd taught her to swing a hammer before she could read, taught her that you earned what you got, and you never took what wasn't yours. He'd been a good man in a world that didn't reward good men, and it had killed him. The stress, the 70-hour weeks, the refusing to see a doctor until the cancer had spread too far. By the time they caught it, treatment was just prolonging the inevitable. She'd held his hand at the end. He'd squeezed her fingers, looked at her with eyes that barely focused, and whispered, "You're stronger than you know." She didn't feel strong. She felt like she was drowning. The car started on the 3rd try. Ilara pulled out of the cemetery, windshield wipers working overtime, and drove through streets that looked gray and lifeless. The city felt different now, hostile, like it had been waiting for her to lose her footing so it could swallow her whole. She made it back to her apartment as the day bled into evening. The building was a converted warehouse in a neighborhood that hovered between working class and rough. Her studio was on the 3rd floor, a space barely big enough for a bed, a kitchenette, and the second-hand desk where she'd spent the last 3 months applying for jobs that never called back. She stripped out of her wet clothes, threw them over the shower rod, and stood in the middle of her apartment in her underwear and her father's old flannel shirt. The heating was broken again. Her breath misted in the air. Her phone buzzed. Another blocked number. She stared at it until the buzzing stopped, then opened her laptop. The foreclosure letter was still pulled up on the screen. She'd read it so many times she had it memorized. Failure to remit payment. default on loan agreement, seizure of property. The legal language didn't soften the reality. They were taking the house. The two-story craftsman where she'd grown up, where her mother had died when Alara was 6, where her father had taught her to cook and fix leaky faucets and change a tire. Gone. Sold to the highest bidder to cover debt she couldn't touch. She closed the laptop, opened it again, Googled Fast Cash Legal. The results were predatory loans, plasma donation centers, and an essay contest that paid $500. Not enough. Not even close. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. The fridge held a carton of eggs that were probably expired and half a loaf of bread. She made toast, burned it, ate it anyway. The char tasted like ash. Her phone rang. Actual call this time, not a blocked number. She didn't recognize it but answered anyway. Maybe a job. Maybe a miracle. Alara Vance? A woman's voice, professional, clipped. Speaking. This is Jennifer Carr from Hightower Financial Services. I'm calling regarding outstanding debts associated with your father's estate. We need to discuss payment arrangements. Alara hung up. Her hand shook. She set the phone face down on the desk and pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw stars. The knock came at 8 p.m. 3 sharp raps. Confident. Not the hesitant tap of a neighbor or the aggressive pound of a bill collector. Something in between. Alara looked through the peephole. A man stood in the hallway. Tall, dark suit, perfectly tailored. Mid-30s, maybe. Black hair swept back, sharp jawline, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or movie screens. He wasn't holding any papers, wasn't wearing a badge. "Who is it?" she called through the door. "Someone who can help you, Miss Vance." His voice was deep, controlled, with an edge of something she couldn't place. Authority, maybe. Or danger. "I'm not interested in Dante Moretti." He said it like she should know the name, like it carried weight. She didn't recognize it. "What do you want?" "To talk. 5 minutes." "About what?" "Your father's debt." Her stomach dropped. "I don't have any money." "I know. That's why I'm here." A pause. "Please. 5 minutes. Then I'll leave if you ask." Every instinct told her not to open the door. Strange man, late at night, talking about money she didn't have. But something in his voice, it wasn't threatening. It was almost respectful. She undid the chain, turned the deadbolt, opened the door. Dante Moretti looked at her with eyes the color of smoke in winter. Cold. Assessing. But not cruel. He took in her appearance, flannel shirt, bare legs, hair still damp from the rain, without expression. "May I come in?" She stepped aside. He entered like he owned the space, moving with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. He was taller than she'd thought, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her rent. A silver watch caught the light. No wedding ring. "Nice place," he said, though it clearly wasn't. "You have 4 minutes." Alara crossed her arms, suddenly aware of how little she was wearing. The flannel barely reached mid-thigh. Dante didn't sit. He stood near her desk, hands in his pockets, and looked at her directly. "Your father owed a significant amount of money. Medical expenses, mortgage, various debts that accumulated over the last 2 years, approximately $80,000 in total." Her throat tightened. "I know. The house forecloses in 30 days. Your credit is destroyed. You have no income, no savings, and no family to turn to." He said it matter-of-factly, without judgment, just stating reality. "If you're here to collect, you're wasting your time. I have nothing. I'm not here to collect." He pulled a folded paper from his jacket, set it on her desk. "I'm here to make an offer." Alara stared at the paper like it might bite. What kind of offer? Marriage. The word hit her like cold water. "Excuse me?" "A contractual marriage. 1 year. In exchange, I pay off every debt, the house, the medical bills, everything. The house goes into your name, free and clear. You receive a monthly allowance for living expenses. When the year ends, we divorce quietly, and you walk away with full ownership of the property and enough money to start over." She laughed. Couldn't help it. The sound came out sharp and slightly hysterical. "Is this a joke?" "No." "You're asking me to marry you, a complete stranger." "Yes." "Why?" Dante's expression didn't change. "I need a wife. You need money. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. People don't just... You can't just... She shook her head, trying to process. Who does this? I do. And what do you get out of it? That's my concern. Like hell it is. Alara moved closer, anger replacing confusion. You show up at my door, offer to pay my debts in exchange for marriage, and expect me to just sign on without knowing what you want? What are you, some kind of pervert? You want to live in— No. His voice cutted through her rising panic. The marriage is in name only. Separate bedrooms. No physical relationship. No intimacy of any kind. You'll live in my home, attend certain social functions as my wife, and maintain the appearance of a committed relationship in public. That's all. That's all, she repeated flatly. Yes. And when the year is up, we just divorce. Clean break. You keep the house. I give you $200,000. You never hear from me again. The number made her dizzy. 200,000, plus the house, plus all debts cleared. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly what she needed. Why me? Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. For the first time, something shifted in Dante's expression. Not quite emotion, but close. Your father did me a favor once, a significant favor. I owe him a debt. What favor? That's not part of this discussion. The hell it's not. If you're using my father's memory to— I'm not using anything. Dante's voice stayed level, but there was steel underneath. James Vance saved my life. I couldn't repay him while he was alive. This is how I repay him now. Alara searched his face for deception, for the catch she knew had to be there, but his expression gave away nothing. I don't believe you. That's your right. This is crazy. Yes. I'd have to be desperate to even consider it. You are desperate. The truth of it stung. She looked away, at the foreclosure letter still glowing on her laptop screen, at the peeling paint on the walls, at the space heater that barely worked. Desperate. Yeah, that about covered it. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow night. After that, the offer expires. Dante moved toward the door, then paused. Read the contract. It's all there. No hidden clauses, no fine print, just the terms I outlined. And if I say no, he met her eyes. Then I wish you luck, Miss Vance. You'll need it. He left. The door clicked shut. Alara stood frozen in the middle of her apartment, staring at the paper on her desk like it was a snake. She didn't touch it for an hour. Paced instead. Made terrible coffee. Burned her tongue. Paced more. Finally, she sat down and unfolded the contract. It was exactly as he'd described. Marriage for 1 year. No physical relationship. All debts paid in full within 48 hours of signing. Monthly allowance of $5,000 for personal expenses. At termination, lump sum payment of $200,000 and the house transferred to her name. There was a clause about public appearances, formal events, charity galas, business dinners. She'd be expected to attend as his wife to maintain the illusion of a real marriage. Another clause about confidentiality. The terms of the arrangement were never to be disclosed, ever. And at the bottom, a signature line. His was already filled in, Dante Moretti, in sharp, confident script. Alara's hands shook as she set the paper down. This was insane, marrying a stranger for money, living in his house, pretending to be something she wasn't. But what was the alternative? Lose the house, declare bankruptcy, spend the next decade crawling out of debt, watch her father's legacy get auctioned off to strangers. She pulled out her phone and typed Dante Moretti into the search bar. The results made her stomach drop. Article after article, photos from high society events, business acquisitions worth millions. And underneath it all, rumors, allegations, whispers of organized crime, of connections to families that operated in shadows, of a man who built an empire on things that couldn't be discussed in polite company. The Mafia. Dante Moretti was connected. Maybe not directly, maybe not provably, but the thread was there. A businessman who moved in circles that included politicians, judges, and people who made other people disappear. Alara's cursor hovered over a photo from a charity gala. Dante in a tuxedo, standing next to a woman in diamonds who looked like she'd been carved from marble. Beautiful. Elegant. Everything Alara wasn't. She closed the browser, stood up, sat down. Her father's voice echoed in her head. You're stronger than you know. Was she strong enough for this? To walk into a world she didn't understand, to marry a man she didn't know, to sell a year of her life for financial security? The answer should have been no. But when she looked at the foreclosure letter, at the empty fridge, at the future that stretched ahead with nothing but struggle and loss, the answer felt like yes. She didn't sleep that night. Lay in bed watching headlights move across the ceiling, running scenarios. Best case, he was telling the truth, the year passed quietly, she got the house and the money and moved on with her life. Worst case, he was a psychopath who'd trap her in some nightmare she couldn't escape. But even the worst case felt survivable. She'd survived her mother's death, her father's illness, the slow erosion of everything she'd counted on. What was one more nightmare? At 6 a.m., she got up, made coffee, and stared at the contract. By noon, she'd read it 17 times. By 4 p.m., she'd convinced herself she was making a mistake. By 6 p.m., she knew she was out of options. At 7 p.m., her phone rang. Dante, have you decided? Her mouth was dry. I have questions. Ask them. If I agree, when would this happen? Courthouse wedding tomorrow at 2 p.m. Paperwork filed immediately. Debts cleared by end of business Friday. That fast? I don't waste time, Miss Vance. What about after? Where would I live? My penthouse. It has 4 bedrooms. You'll have your own space, your own bathroom, complete privacy except for the public appearances specified in the contract. And those appearances? How often? 2 to 3 times per month. Galas, dinners, occasionally business functions. You'll be provided appropriate clothing and preparation for each event. Preparation? A stylist will help with wardrobe and etiquette. You'll need to learn how to navigate these circles. Because she clearly didn't belong. He didn't say it, but she heard it anyway. What if I mess up, say the wrong thing? You won't. You're smarter than you think. A pause. Any other questions? 1,000, but only one that mattered. Why are you really doing this? Silence on the other end. Long enough that she thought he'd hung up. Then, your father saved my life when I was 17. He asked nothing in return, refused payment, refused favors. He just helped. Another pause. Men like him don't exist in my world. When I learned of his death, of your situation, this is how I honor what he did. You could just give me the money. I could, but I need a wife, and you need salvation. This serves both purposes. You make it sound so transactional. It is transactional. That's the point. His voice softened slightly. But it's also the truth. No lies, no games, just an agreement between 2 people who can help each other. Alara closed her eyes, felt the weight of the decision pressing down like physical force. Okay. I'll do it. I'll sign. She heard something on his end. Not quite relief, but close. Tomorrow at 2. I'll send a car for you at 1:30. Bring identification and anything you want to keep from your apartment. The rest we'll replace. Dante? Yes? If you hurt me, if this is some kind of trap, then you walk away. The contract includes a clause. Any breach on my part, you get the house and $500,000. I'm incentivized to keep my word, Miss Vance. Alara, he repeated, and the way he said her name made something in her chest tighten. He hung up. She sat in the silence of her apartment, contract in hand, and felt like she'd just stepped off a cliff. The car arrived at 1:30 exactly. Black sedan, tinted windows, driver in a suit who didn't speak. He held the door for her, loaded the 2 suitcases that held her entire life, and drove through the city like he owned the roads. Alara wore the only dress she owned that wasn't for funerals. Navy blue, simple, slightly too big in the shoulders. She'd put on makeup, pulled her hair back, tried to look like someone who belonged in a courthouse marrying a man she'd met once. The courthouse was downtown. The driver pulled up to a side entrance, escorted her through hallways that smelled like old paper and broken dreams. Dante was waiting in a small room with a judge and a witness she didn't recognize. He wore another perfect suit. Charcoal this time. He looked at her without smiling, without warmth, but something in his eyes acknowledged her presence. "Thank you for coming," he said, like this was a business meeting. "Didn't have much choice," she replied. The judge cleared his throat. Middle-aged, tired-looking, clearly wanting this over with. "We ready?" Dante nodded. The ceremony took 4 minutes. Repeat after me. Do you take? I do. Sign here. Witnessed and filed. When the judge said, "You may kiss the bride," Dante simply shook her hand. His grip was firm, warm, real. "Welcome to the arrangement, Mrs. Moretti." Mrs. Moretti. The name felt foreign, heavy. They left through the same side entrance. The driver was waiting. Dante helped her into the car, slid in beside her, and the city disappeared behind tinted glass. "Your debts will be cleared by Friday," he said, without preamble. "The house paperwork transfers Monday. You'll have full access to your allowance starting tomorrow." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. We both get what we need." The car climbed into the hills, where the city gave way to estates hidden behind gates and walls. They turned onto a private road, stopped at a security checkpoint where armed guards waved them through, and pulled up to a building that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Glass and steel and money. So much money. The penthouse occupied the top 3 floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city like it was a possession. Modern furniture that looked uncomfortable and expensive. Art on the walls that Alara didn't recognize but knew cost more than houses. A woman appeared from somewhere. Older, professional, efficient. "This is Marie," Dante said. "She manages the household. Anything you need, ask her." Marie smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome, Mrs. Moretti. I'll show you to your room." Alara followed her up a floating staircase to the 3rd floor. The bedroom was bigger than her entire apartment. King bed, sitting area, walk-in closet already filled with clothes she hadn't picked, private bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. "Mr. Moretti thought you might need a new wardrobe," Marie said. "Everything should fit, but if adjustments are needed, let me know." How did he know my size? He's very thorough. That should have been creepy. Somehow it just felt efficient. Marie left. Alara stood in the middle of this palace disguised as a bedroom and felt completely out of place. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Dinner at 8. Wear something comfortable. D." She looked at the closet full of designer clothes that all had tags still attached. Comfortable. Right. She chose black pants and a silk blouse that probably cost more than her car. Felt like a costume. Looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. At 8, she went downstairs. Dante was in the dining room, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. He'd been working, laptop open, papers spread across the table. He looked up when she entered. "You look nice." "I look expensive." A hint of a smile. "That too." Dinner was brought in by Marie. Some kind of pasta that tasted like it came from a restaurant. Wine that was probably older than Alara. They ate in silence for a while. The only sound silverware against plates. "You'll meet my lawyer tomorrow," Dante said finally. "He'll walk you through the financial arrangements. Bank accounts, allowance, emergency contacts." "Okay. And Friday, we have our first public appearance. Charity gala, black tie. The stylist will come Thursday to prepare you." "What do I need to do?" "Stand beside me. Smile. Make small talk if approached. Don't discuss our arrangement. Don't discuss my business. Just be present." "Present. Got it." She took a drink of wine. It was too good. Everything here was too good. "Can I ask you something?" "Depends on the question." "What do people think this is? Our marriage? Do they know it's—" "No one knows the terms except us and my lawyer, who is bound by confidentiality. To everyone else, this is a real marriage. Sudden, perhaps, but real." "And they'll believe that? That you just fell for some nobody?" Dante set down his fork, looked at her directly. "You're not a nobody, Alara, and yes, they'll believe it, because I'll make them believe it." The way he said it sent a shiver down her spine, not threatening, just certain, like reality bent to his will. "What about your family?" she asked. Something dark crossed his face. "I don't have family, not anymore." "Friends?" "Associates, business partners. People I trust as far as I can throw them." He picked up his wine. "This world doesn't do friendship, Alara. It does loyalty bought and sold. Alliance is built on fear and profit. You'll learn that quickly." "Sounds lonely." "It's practical." They finished eating in silence. Dante returned to his work. Alara retreated to her room and spent the night staring at the city lights, wondering what the hell she'd gotten herself into. The next 3 days were a blur. meeting lawyers who explained accounts she now had access to with balances that made her nauseated, signing papers that made it all real, watching the debt disappear from screens like it had never existed, getting fitted for a gown that cost more than her father's funeral, learning how to walk in heels that could double as weapons. The stylist was a woman named Veronica who talked fast and moved faster. She circled Alara like a predator, making notes, barking orders to assistants who materialized and vanished with clothing and jewelry and makeup that probably cost more than cars. "You have good bone structure," Veronica said, not unkindly. "But we need to work on posture. Shoulders back, chin up. You're married to Dante Moretti now. Act like it." And how exactly does someone married to Dante Moretti act? Untouchable. Veronica positioned her in front of a mirror. "Look at yourself. You're not the girl who walked in here 3 days ago. You're his wife. That means power, confidence. Don't apologize for taking up space." Alara looked at her reflection, hair styled in waves that framed her face, makeup that made her eyes look dangerous, dress that hugged every curve and made her look like she belonged on red carpets. She looked like a stranger. "Better," Veronica said. "Now let's practice the walk." By Friday night, Alara could move in heels without wobbling, could make small talk without stammering, could smile like she meant it even when her stomach was eating itself with nerves. Dante came to her room at 7, knocked once, entered when she called. He stopped when he saw her. Just stopped. "Is it okay?" she asked, suddenly uncertain. Veronica said, "You look perfect." His voice was rougher than usual. He cleared his throat. "The car's ready." The gala was held at a museum downtown. Red carpet, photographers, people in evening wear that cost more than weddings. Dante placed his hand on the small of her back as they exited the car, and cameras exploded with light. "Smile," he murmured. "You're enjoying yourself." She smiled, felt his hand steady against her back, walked beside him into a world she'd only ever seen in movies. The museum was transformed into something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, waiters carrying champagne like it was water. Everyone beautiful, everyone powerful, everyone looking at her with curiosity barely hidden behind polite smiles. "Dante!" A man approached. Silver hair, expensive suit, shark's smile. "I heard rumors, but I didn't believe them. You? Married?" "Paul, this is my wife, Alara. Alara, Paul Hendricks. He runs half the real estate in the city. Pleasure." Paul took her hand, kissed it. His eyes were cold. "You're a lucky woman, Mrs. Moretti." "I'm aware," she said, because it seemed like the right answer. They moved through the crowd, Dante introducing her to people whose names she'd forget immediately. Businessmen, politicians, a judge, a woman who owned a fashion empire. All of them looking at her like they were trying to figure out what she was doing there. She didn't belong. They knew it. She knew it. But Dante's hand stayed on her back, steady, and somehow that made it bearable. They were standing near a sculpture when a woman approached. Tall, elegant, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Alara's car had when it was new. Dark hair, perfect face, eyes like cut glass. She looked at Dante like she owned him. "Dante, it's been too long." Every muscle in Dante's body went tight. "Serafina." The woman, Serafina, smiled. It was predatory. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your wife?" She said the last word like it was a question. "Alara, this is Serafina Russo. Serafina, my wife, Alara." Serafina's eyes raked over Alara, taking in every detail, every flaw, every sign that she didn't belong. "Charming. How did you two meet?" "Through family," Dante said before Alara could answer. "How traditional." Serafina stepped closer. She smelled like expensive perfume and danger. "I'm surprised you didn't tell me you were seeing anyone, Dante. We usually share everything." Dante's expression stayed neutral, but Alara felt the tension radiating off him. "That was a long time ago." "Was it?" Serafina's smile sharpened. "Feels like yesterday to me." She walked away. Dante watched her go, something dark and complicated crossing his face. "Who was that?" Alara asked quietly. "No one important." "She didn't look at you like you were no one important." Dante's jaw tightened. "We should circulate." But Alara had seen it, the way he'd reacted, the way that woman had looked at him, and she realized with sudden, sinking certainty, whatever this arrangement was, she'd just walked into something far more complicated than a simple contract. The ride home was silent, except for the hum of the engine and the city lights sliding past tinted windows. Dante stared out his window. Alara stared out hers. The space between them felt like a chasm. She wanted to ask, wanted to demand who Serafina Russo was and why her presence had turned Dante into stone. But the set of his jaw, the way his fingers drummed once against his knee before going still, it told her to leave it alone. She didn't. "So that's your ex?" Dante's head turned slowly. His eyes in the darkness were unreadable. "Excuse me?" "Serafina. That's who she is, right? The woman you were with before this." Alara gestured between them. "Before me." "It's not relevant. She looked at you like she still owns you. Looked at me like I'm something you picked up at a clearance sale. That feels pretty damn relevant." His expression didn't change. "What Serafina thinks doesn't matter." "Does she know about our arrangement?" "No one knows. I told you that." "So she thinks we're real, thinks you actually married me because you, what, fell madly in love?" Alara laughed, but it came out bitter. Must have been a shock. Dante turned back to the window. "Serafina and I were engaged 3 years ago. It ended. That's all you need to know." "Engaged?" The word settled heavy in her chest. "What happened?" "I'm not discussing this. We're married, Dante. Fake or not, I think I deserve—" "You deserve what's in the contract. Nothing more." His voice went cold, sharp. The voice he probably used on people who crossed him. "My past is not part of our agreement." Alara bit back the response burning on her tongue. "Fine. Let him keep his secrets." She had enough problems without adding his emotional baggage to the pile. The penthouse was dark when they arrived. Marie had left everything pristine and empty. Dante headed straight for his office without a word. Alara kicked off the torture devices Veronica called shoes and went upstairs. Her room felt too big, too quiet. She peeled off the dress, left it in a heap on the floor, and stood in the shower until the water ran cold. When she finally crawled into bed, she couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Serafina's face, the way she'd looked at Dante like he was hers, the way he'd gone rigid at her voice. 3 years ago. Engaged. Something had ended it. Alara rolled over, punched the pillow, tried to convince herself it didn't matter. This was a business arrangement. What Dante did before her, who he loved before her, none of it was her concern. But sleep didn't come until almost dawn, and when it did, she dreamed of dark-haired women in expensive dresses and contracts that burned in her hands. She woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover. Her phone said 11 a.m. She'd slept through half the day. Downstairs, Marie was in the kitchen doing something complicated with vegetables. She looked up when Alara appeared, barefoot and rumpled in an oversized t-shirt. "Good morning, Mrs. Moretti. Coffee?" "Please." "And it's Alara." "Mr. Moretti prefers formality." "Mr. Moretti isn't here." Alara slid onto a bar stool. "Is he?" "He left at 6. Business meeting downtown." Marie poured coffee into a mug that probably cost more than Alara's first car. "He said he'd be back this evening." "He say anything else?" "Just that you have a dress fitting at 3. Veronica will be here at 2:30. "Of course." More appearances to prepare for, more performances to rehearse. Alara sipped the coffee. It was perfect. Everything in this place was perfect. Perfectly decorated, perfectly managed, perfectly empty. "Marie, how long have you worked for Dante?" 8 years. "You know him well, then." Marie's hand stilled on the cutting board. "I know what Mr. Moretti allows me to know." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." Marie returned to chopping. "He's a private man. Doesn't share more than necessary." "What about Serafina Russo?" The knife slipped, just barely. A tiny flinch that Marie covered immediately. "I don't discuss Mr. Moretti's personal affairs." "But you know who she is." "Everyone knows who she is." Marie set down the knife, met Alara's eyes. "If you're smart, you'll leave that particular subject alone." "Why?" "Because some doors once opened can't be closed." She went back to cutting. "The fitting is at 3. I'd suggest eating something before Veronica arrives. She has opinions about everything, including lunch." Dismissed. Alara took her coffee upstairs and spent the next 2 hours trying to distract herself with the tablet Dante had left on her nightstand. News, social media, pictures from last night's gala already circulating. There she was, frozen in glossy pixels. Standing beside Dante, his hand on her back, both of them looking like they belonged on magazine covers. The headlines were predictable. Mysterious new Mrs. Moretti. Dante Moretti's surprise wedding. Who is Alara Vance? She scrolled through comments. Most were curiosity. Some were cruel. A few were outright vicious. Gold digger. She's nobody. Give it 6 months. He'll get bored. Alara closed the browser, stared at the ceiling, reminded herself that she didn't care what strangers thought. But the words stuck anyway. Veronica arrived at 2:30 with an army of assistants and enough garment bags to stock a boutique. She swept into Alara's room like a general preparing for war. We have 3 events this month, she announced, pulling out dresses. Dinner with the Castellanos on Wednesday, museum fundraiser next Friday, and a private gathering at the Moretti estate the following Saturday. Moretti estate? Alara frowned. I thought Dante didn't have family. He doesn't. The estate belonged to his father. Dante maintains it for business purposes, hosting, meetings, occasionally showing off. Veronica held up a red dress. Too aggressive. You need subtle, confident, but not threatening. Why not threatening? Because half the women there will already hate you for existing, and the other half will be deciding whether you're worth their time. You want to be untouchable, not aggressive. She pulled out a midnight blue gown. This. Try it on. Alara stripped and stepped into the dress. Veronica zipped her up, adjusted the fabric, stepped back with narrowed eyes. Better. The color makes you look dangerous without trying too hard. She circled. You'll wear your hair up, simple jewelry, diamond studs, nothing else. Why simple? Because Serafina Russo will be there, and she wears her wealth like armor. You need to look like you don't have to prove anything. Alara's stomach dropped. She'll be at the estate? She's part of that world. Old family, old money, old connections. Veronica met her eyes in the mirror. You knew you'd see her again. I didn't think it'd be this soon. Get used to it. These circles are small. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone watches everyone. And everyone is waiting to see if you'll crack. Encouraging. I'm not here to encourage. I'm here to prepare. Veronica gestured to the assistants. Shoes. Let's see the Louboutins. The fitting lasted 2 hours. By the end, Alara had outfits for every occasion, instructions for hair and makeup, and a headache forming behind her eyes. Veronica paused at the door. A word of advice? Don't try to compete with Serafina. You'll lose. She's been playing this game since birth. You're new. Use that. Be the wild card they don't understand. And how do I do that? By not giving a damn what they think. She smiled. You married Dante Moretti. That makes you more powerful than most people in that room. Act like it. She left. Alara stood in front of the mirror, staring at the stranger in the blue gown. Powerful. Right. She felt like a fraud. Dante came home at 7. Alara heard the door, heard his footsteps, heard him speaking to Marie in the kitchen. She stayed in her room, not ready for whatever conversation they needed to have. He knocked at 8. Come in, she called. He entered still wearing his suit, tie loosened, looking tired in a way she hadn't seen before. You had the fitting. Yeah, Veronica says I need to look untouchable. She's right. She also mentioned the gathering at your estate, said Serafina would be there. Dante's expression closed off. Yes. You going to tell me anything about her, or am I supposed to just wing it when she corners me? She won't corner you. She already did, last night. You just didn't notice because you were too busy pretending she doesn't exist. Dante moved to the window, hands in his pockets. The city sprawled below like a possession. Serafina and I were together for 2 years, engaged for 6 months. It ended badly. That's all that matters. What's badly? She wanted things I couldn't give her. Like what? He turned. His eyes were hard. Love, romance, the illusion that what we had was anything more than a strategic alliance between families. So you were doing the same thing with her that you're doing with me? No. The word came out sharp. What we have is honest. Serafina wanted me to pretend otherwise, to act like we were building something real when we both knew it was about power and legacy and maintaining appearances. And she fell for you anyway. Dante's jaw tightened. Yes. Does she know you didn't feel the same? I was clear from the beginning. She chose not to believe me. He moved toward the door. I can't control what Serafina feels or how she acts. But she won't touch you. Won't hurt you. I'll make sure of it. Why do you care? The question stopped him. He looked at her with something unreadable in his expression. Because you're my wife. That means something in my world. Fake wife. The distinction doesn't matter to them. You wear my name. That makes you mine to protect. The possessiveness in his voice made something flutter in her chest. She pushed it down. I'm not your property, Dante. I know. He opened the door. But they don't. And that's what keeps you safe. He left. Elara sat on the edge of the bed, processing. Mine to protect. Like she was something valuable. Like this was more than just a contract. She told herself it wasn't. Couldn't be. He'd been clear. But the way he'd looked at her. She shook her head. Dangerous thoughts. This was a business arrangement. Nothing more. But when she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of gray eyes and the weight of his hand on her back. Wednesday came too fast. The dinner with the Castellanos was at their home in the hills, a sprawling mansion that made Dante's penthouse look modest. Elara wore a simple black dress, hair down, minimal jewelry. Veronica had coached her through expected topics: art, charity work, neutral politics. Nothing controversial, nothing real. Just smile and nod, Veronica had said. Let Dante lead. You're there to look good and be pleasant. Objectified, but effective. Marco Castellano met them at the door. Late 50s, gray at the temples, expensive suit, calculating eyes. Dante, so good of you to come. He turned to Elara. And this must be your lovely bride. We've heard so much. I'm sure you have. Elara shook his hand. His grip was firm, testing. Inside, the house was museum quality. Original artwork, furniture that belonged behind velvet ropes, a dining room table that could seat 20, set for 8. The other guests were already there, a couple in their 40s, Antonio and Lucia, something to do with shipping. An older woman named Constance who owned galleries, and seated at the far end of the table, perfectly composed in emerald silk. Serafina. Elara's steps faltered. Dante's hand found the small of her back. Steadying, warning. Serafina, Marco said warmly. You know Dante, of course, and his wife, Elara. We've met. Serafina's smile was poison. How lovely to see you again so soon. Dinner was a performance. 7 courses of food. Elara barely tasted. Conversation that danced around topics without touching anything real. Marco talking business and code. Antonio discussing shipping routes like they weren't trafficking anything illegal. Constance name-dropping artists Elara had never heard of. And Serafina, watching. Always watching. Between the 3rd and 4th courses, she struck. So, Elara, she said, voice carrying across the table, Dante mentioned you met through family. How exactly does that work? I wasn't aware he had any family left. Every eye turned to Elara. Dante's hand found her knee under the table. A warning or support, she couldn't tell. My father knew Dante's father, Elara said carefully. They reconnected me. How romantic, Serafina sipped her wine. A connection built on the past, though I suppose that's better than some alternatives. What alternatives? Elara asked, though she knew she shouldn't. Oh, you know, arrangements, contracts. Marriages built on everything except actual feeling. Her eyes glittered. But I'm sure that's not you two. Dante's voice cut through like a blade. Serafina, enough. I'm just making conversation. You're being rude. Am I? She leaned back, utterly composed. I apologize if I offended. I'm just curious about your whirlwind romance. 6 months ago, you swore you'd never marry. Now here you are. One has to wonder what changed. I met the right person. Dante's tone left no room for argument. How convenient. Serafina turned to Marco. More wine? The conversation moved on, but the damage was done. Elara felt every eye on her, calculating, questioning, doubting. She made it through the rest of dinner on autopilot. Smiled when appropriate. nodded at the right times. Let Dante guide the conversation away from dangerous waters. When they finally left at 11, her face hurt from fake smiling. The car pulled away from the mansion. Elara stared out the window, jaw clenched. I'm sorry. Dante's voice was quiet. For what? For her calling me a gold digger without actually saying it? For everyone at that table thinking I'm some nobody you married for reasons they can't figure out? She turned to him. Or for putting me in this position in the first place? All of it. Great, that helps. Elara, she's still in love with you. The words came out flat. You know that, right? Dante's silence was answer enough. And she's not going to stop. She'll keep showing up, keep making comments, keep trying to prove I don't belong. Elara's hands fisted in her lap. How am I supposed to deal with that for a year? By ignoring her. Easy for you to say. No, it's not. He looked at her, something raw in his expression. You think I enjoy this? Watching her tear into you, knowing she's doing it because of me? Then why invite her? I didn't. Marco did. He's been trying to push Serafina and me back together for 2 years. Tonight was his latest attempt. Well, it didn't work. No, it didn't. Dante's voice went soft. Because I'm married to you. The way he said it made her chest tight. She looked away. Fake married. The distinction doesn't matter to them. Or to her. They rode in silence. Elara watched the city blur past, trying to sort through the tangle in her head. This was supposed to be simple. A transaction. A year of playing pretend in exchange for security. But nothing felt simple anymore. Back at the penthouse, Dante went to his office. Elara went upstairs, changed into pajamas, tried to decompress. She was nearly asleep when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Elara Vance. A woman's voice. Not Serafina. Older. Smoke damaged. Or should I say, Moretti? Who is this? Someone who knows what you don't. About your husband. About why he really married you. Elara sat up. I'm hanging up. Your father didn't just know Dante's father. He saved Dante's life. Did he tell you that? Her blood went cold. How do you... 15 years ago. Dante was 17, stupid, in over his head with people who wanted him dead. James Vance intervened, took a beating meant for the boy, nearly died. The woman's voice turned sharp. Dante's been carrying that debt ever since, and now he's paying it off with you. I know all this. Do you? Do you know why those people wanted Dante dead? Do you know what your father was really involved in? My father was a good man. Your father was a fixer for the Moretti family. He cleaned up their messes, made problems disappear, got his hands dirty so they could keep theirs clean. A pause. And it got him killed. The room spun. That's a lie. Is it? Ask your husband about the night your father died. Ask him where he was, what he was doing. Who the hell are you? Someone who wants you to know the truth before it's too late. Dante Moretti doesn't do anything without a reason. Your father saved him. Fine. But this marriage, it's not just about repaying a debt. It's about control. About keeping you close so you can't ask the wrong questions. Questions about what? About what really happened to James Vance. The line crackled. Be careful, Mrs. Moretti. You're in deeper than you think. The call ended. Elara stared at the phone, heart hammering. Lies. Had to be lies. Some rival trying to mess with her head. But the voice had known details. Names. The story about her father saving Dante. She pulled up her father's death certificate on her laptop. Heart failure. Natural causes. The hospital had been clear. But he'd been healthy. Active. 58 years old. And then suddenly dead. She'd been so consumed with grief and debt that she hadn't questioned it. Hadn't pushed for answers. The doctor said heart failure, so heart failure it was. But now, she pulled up her father's phone records from his last month. Most were normal. Calls to her, to work contacts, to doctors. But there were 3 calls to the same unknown number, all in the week before he died. Elara reverse searched the number. Got nothing. Tried again with different search terms. Finally, buried in the 5th page of results, a forum post from 2 years ago. Someone asking about the same number. One response, that's a private line, Moretti family business. Her hands shook. No. This didn't mean anything. Her father did odd jobs. He could have been calling about work, about construction, about anything, but the timing. She grabbed her phone, pulled up Dante's contact, hovered over the call button. What was she supposed to say? Some stranger called and said, "You killed my father?" It was insane. But she couldn't unhear it. She set down the phone, changed into jeans and a sweater, went downstairs. Dante's office door was closed, light showing underneath. She knocked. "Come in." He was at his desk, papers spread everywhere, laptop open. He looked up, surprised. "It's after midnight. I need to ask you something." Something in her voice made him straighten. "What's wrong? When did my father save your life? Exactly when?" Dante's expression shifted. Wary. "Why?" "Just answer the question." 15 years ago, August. I was 17. "What happened?" "I did something stupid. Made enemies. Your father intervened before they could kill me. And you've been grateful ever since?" "Yes." "Grateful enough to marry his daughter to pay off the debt." "That's what I told you." Alara moved closer. "When did my father die? What's the exact date?" "March 19th. Why are you—" "Where were you that night?" Dante stood slowly. "Alara, what's going on?" "Just answer the question." "I was in Chicago, business meeting. I have receipts, witnesses, flight records." "When did you find out he died?" "The next morning. I saw the obituary." His eyes narrowed. "Someone's been talking to you." "Some woman called, said my father was more than just a construction worker, said he was a fixer for your family, said his death wasn't natural." "And you believed her?" "I don't know what to believe." Her voice cracked. "You show up out of nowhere offering to save me. You marry me to repay a debt. You won't tell me anything real about your life or your past or what you actually do. And now some stranger is saying my father died because of you." Dante came around the desk, slow, careful, like approaching something wounded. "Your father's death was investigated. Heart failure, natural causes. There was no foul play." "How do you know?" "Because I looked into it. When I heard he died, I made sure." He stopped a foot away. "I owed him everything. If someone had hurt him, I would have known, would have made them pay. But he did work for you, for your family." Dante's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Doing what?" "Solving problems, quietly, legally when possible." "And when not possible?" "He knew how to make things disappear." The confirmation hit like a fist. "So he was involved in whatever you do, whatever this is. He helped when needed. I won't lie to you about that." Dante's voice went rough. "But he was a good man. He drew lines, wouldn't cross certain boundaries. That's why people trusted him." "Did those boundaries get him killed?" "No." Dante stepped closer. "I would know. I would have found out. I have resources, connections. If someone hurt James, I would have burned their world to ash." "Why? Why would you care that much?" "Because he saved my life!" The words came out harsh, louder than she'd ever heard him. "Because when I was 17 and stupid and bleeding in an alley, he didn't walk past, didn't call the cops. He picked me up, took me somewhere safe, got me patched up, and told me to be smarter. He didn't ask for money, didn't ask for favors. He just helped. And that kind of thing doesn't exist in my world. Do you understand? People like him don't exist." Alara's throat burned. "Then why didn't you help him when he needed it? Why wait until he was dead?" "Because I didn't know." Dante's voice broke just slightly. "I didn't know he was struggling. Didn't know about the debt. He never called, never asked. I found out after the funeral." "How?" "I have people who monitor things. They flagged your name, flagged the foreclosure. I looked into it and realized who you were." He met her eyes. "I couldn't save him, but I could save you. By trapping me in a contract. By giving you a choice. You could have said no. I had 30 days before I lost everything. And now you have security, a home, money, a future." He moved closer, close enough she could see the strain in his face. "I'm not the villain here, Alara. I'm trying to help." "Why?" "Because I owed him. Because you deserved better. Because—" He stopped, looked away. "Because what?" Because watching you at that funeral, alone, breaking apart, I couldn't walk away. The admission hung between them, raw, unexpected. Alara's pulse hammered. You were there at the funeral? I stayed back. You wouldn't have known me. You watched me bury my father and didn't say anything. What was I supposed to say? I'm sorry for your loss. Here's a contract. He ran a hand through his hair. I waited, did research, made sure this was the right move. For who? Me or you?
Both. He met her eyes. I needed a wife. You needed saving. It worked. Except it's not working. Her voice rose. Because I don't know what's real anymore. Don't know if you're telling the truth or if this is all just manipulation. Don't know if my father really died naturally or if someone killed him and you're covering it up. I'm not covering anything up.
Then prove it. Show me the investigation. Show me the medical records. Show me everything. Dante held her gaze. Something flickered in his eyes. Decision. Okay. Okay? I'll show you everything. The reports, the records. All of it. He moved back to his desk, pulled out his phone. But Alara, you need to understand. If you go down this path, if you start digging into your father's life, into my life, into what we do, you can't unknow it, can't unsee it. This world we're in, it's not pretty, it's not clean, and once you know the truth, there's no going back to ignorance. She lifted her chin. I want the truth. Even if it's ugly? Especially if it's ugly. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Tomorrow, I'll have everything sent to my lawyer's office. You can review it there, privately. Why not here? Because some of it's sensitive, confidential. If you're going to see it, it needs to be in a secure location. Fine. She turned to leave. Alara. She stopped. Whoever called you tonight, they're trying to get in your head, turn you against me. You need to be careful. Maybe they're trying to tell me the truth. Or maybe they're trying to use you. His voice went hard. You're my wife now. That makes you a target. People will try to manipulate you, hurt you to get to me. You need to trust that I'm not your enemy. Trust is earned, Dante. I know. He looked tired, older than his years. And I'll earn it. But you have to let me. She left without answering. Back in her room, she paced until exhaustion won. Fell into bed still dressed, mind spinning with questions that had no good answers. Her father, a fixer. Working for the Moretti family. Dante. Watching her at the funeral, planning this whole thing, and someone out there who knew enough to make her doubt everything. Sleep didn't come easy. When it did, she dreamed of her father's face, of Dante standing in the rain, of contracts burning and truth bleeding through the cracks. She woke to sunlight and Marie's knock. Mrs. Moretti, you have an appointment at 10. Alara checked her phone. 9:15. What appointment? Mr. Moretti's lawyer. He's expecting you downtown. Right, the truth. Or whatever version Dante was willing to share. She dressed quickly. Jeans, sweater, boots, pulled her hair back. No armor today, just herself. The car arrived at 9:30. Different driver. Older man. Silent, professional. He took her downtown to a building she recognized from news articles. Sheffield Tower. 20 stories of glass and steel. Moretti Industries occupied the top 5 floors. The lawyer's office was on 18. Alara gave her name to the receptionist, who smiled with perfect professional courtesy and led her to a conference room that overlooked the city. The lawyer was already there. Marcus Sheffield. Early 60s, gray suit, sharp eyes that had seen everything and judged most of it. Mrs. Moretti, please sit. He gestured to a chair. On the table in front of it sat 3 thick folders. Mr. Moretti asked me to provide you with complete access to the relevant documentation regarding your father and the circumstances of his death. Alara sat, stared at the folders like they might explode. Marcus opened the first one. This contains the official investigation records, police report, medical examiner's findings, autopsy results, everything the authorities compiled. He slid it toward her. Alara opened it with shaking hands. The medical examiner's report was clinical. James Vance, age 58. Cause of death, acute myocardial infarction. Heart attack. No signs of trauma. No indication of foul play. Toxicology clean except for prescription medications for his cancer treatment. She read it twice, 3 times. Natural causes. The second folder, Marcus continued, contains Mr. Moretti's private investigation. When he learned of Mr. Vance's death, he hired an independent firm to verify the official findings. This folder was thicker. Photos, interviews, financial records. Her father's last weeks traced in painful detail. Doctor visits, phone calls, credit card transactions. Nothing suspicious. Just a man dying of cancer and stress and a broken heart. The third folder made her breath catch. This, Marcus said quietly, contains records of your father's work with the Moretti family. Mr. Moretti wanted you to see exactly what Mr. Vance did and didn't do. Alara opened it. Contracts, payments, job descriptions written in careful legal language, mediator, consultant, problem solver. Her father had worked for Dante's father for 20 years, helping settle disputes, negotiating with unions, handling situations that required a delicate touch. Nothing illegal, nothing that crossed the lines he'd set, but definitely connected. Your father was an honorable man, Marcus said. He helped people, resolved conflicts. Sometimes those conflicts involved difficult individuals, but he never compromised his ethics. Mr. Moretti Sr. valued that, as does Mr. Moretti Jr. Alara's eyes burned. She blinked hard. Her father. Not some criminal, just a man trying to help, trying to make peace in a world that didn't do peace naturally. The phone calls, she said hoarsely. The week before he died, there were calls to a Moretti line. Yes, he was calling to ask for help. Marcus pulled out another document. For you. He knew he was dying, knew you'd be left with debt. He called to ask if there was any work, any final job he could do to leave you something. What did Dante say? Mr. Moretti Jr. was out of the country at the time. The calls went to an assistant who promised to pass the message along. But before Mr. Moretti could respond, your father passed away. The pieces clicked into place. Her father, desperate, calling in old favors. Dante, learning too late to help. And then the guilt, the debt, the need to fix what couldn't be fixed. He married me because he felt guilty. Marcus chose his words carefully. Mr. Moretti married you because he owed your father a debt he could never repay. Whether that's guilt or honor, I'll let you decide. Alara closed the folders, pressed her palms flat on the table. Is there anything else? Anything he's hiding? Nothing related to your father's death. I can tell you that with complete certainty. Marcus leaned back. Mr. Moretti's business dealings are complex. Not all of them would survive public scrutiny, but he didn't harm your father, and he's not lying to you about his intentions. His intentions to use me as a trophy wife for a year. His intentions to honor a good man by protecting that man's daughter. Marcus's expression softened. Mrs. Moretti, I've known Dante since he was a boy. I've seen him make ruthless decisions, cruel decisions, decisions that would horrify most people. But I've never seen him do something like this. Marry someone to settle a debt? That's not calculation. That's conscience. Alara stood. Thank you for your time. Will you tell him what you've decided? Decided about what? Whether you believe him. She looked at the folders, at the truth laid bare in clinical language and cold facts. I don't know yet. She left. The driver took her back to the penthouse. She walked through the door, past Marie's concerned look, straight up to her room. Lay on the bed, stared at the ceiling. Her father had been exactly who she thought. Good, honorable, helping where he could. And Dante was trying to be the same in his own twisted way, but the doubt still gnawed because someone had called her, someone who knew details, someone who wanted her to question everything. Why? Her phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Did you find what you were looking for? Alara's blood ran cold. She typed back. Who are you? Someone who knows what Dante won't tell you, about Serafina, about why she really hates you, about what you're actually caught in the middle of. Tell me. Not over text. Meet me. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. Riverside Park, South Entrance. Come alone. Why should I trust you? Because Dante doesn't own the truth, and you deserve to know what you're really married into. The messages stopped. Ilara stared at the screen, heart racing. This was stupid, dangerous, meeting some anonymous stranger who was clearly trying to manipulate her. But the alternative was trusting Dante completely. And she wasn't there yet. She typed back, "Fine. 2 p.m. I'll be there." The response came immediately. "Smart girl. Don't tell your husband." Ilara deleted the messages, buried the phone in her drawer. Tomorrow. She'd get answers tomorrow, and then she'd decide who was really lying. Outside her window, the city glittered like broken glass, and somewhere in the gathering dark, Serafina Russo poured herself a drink and smiled at the chaos she'd set in motion. Ilara didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that text message burning behind her eyelids. 2 p.m. Riverside Park. Come alone. She should tell Dante. That's what a smart person would do. Show him the messages. Let him handle it. Stay safe behind the walls he'd built around her. But Smart hadn't gotten her answers. Smart had gotten her folders full of clinical reports that explained everything and nothing. Smart meant trusting a man who'd married her out of guilt and called it honor. At 6 a.m., she gave up on sleep. Showered. Dressed in jeans and a sweater that didn't scream Mafia wife. Pulled her hair into a ponytail. She looked like herself again. The girl from before. Before Dante. Before contracts and penthouses and people who smiled with knives behind their teeth. Marie was already in the kitchen, brewing coffee that smelled like it cost more than Ilara's first car. "You're up early, Mrs. Moretti." "Couldn't sleep." Ilara took the mug Marie offered. "Is Dante here?" "He left an hour ago. Some emergency downtown." Marie studied her with those sharp eyes that saw too much. "You look troubled." "I'm fine." "Of course you are." Marie turned back to whatever she was preparing. "Mr. Moretti mentioned you might need the car today. Where should I tell the driver to take you?" Ilara's stomach tightened. "Actually, I was thinking of walking, getting some air. It's 40 degrees and raining." "I like the rain." Marie's hands stilled. She didn't turn around. "Be careful, Mrs. Moretti. This city isn't kind to people who wander alone." "I'll manage." "I'm sure you will." Marie resumed chopping. "Just remember, sometimes the people offering help are the ones you should fear most." The words felt like a warning or a threat. Ilara couldn't tell which. She finished her coffee and left before Marie could say anything else. The penthouse was in the hills, far from Riverside Park. She could have called a cab, but taxis left records. Could have taken the bus, but that meant cameras. So she walked to the nearest station and took the train downtown like a normal person. Like someone who didn't live in a fortress and wear dresses that cost more than most people's rent. The city looked different from ground level. Grittier. Real. People rushing to jobs they hated, drinking coffee that tasted like dishwater, existing in the margins Ilara had briefly escaped. This was where she belonged. Not in Dante's world of power and violence dressed up as civilization. Riverside Park was a stretch of green along the water, popular with joggers and tourists and people who needed somewhere to exist for a while. The south entrance was marked by an old stone arch crumbling at the edges, covered in graffiti that might have been art. Ilara arrived at 1:45, stood under the arch, hands in her pockets, trying to look casual while her heart hammered against her ribs. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy with it. Gray sky, gray water, everything gray except the autumn leaves clinging to trees like they didn't know they were already dead. At 2 p.m. exactly, a woman appeared. Not Serafina. Someone older. Late 50s, maybe 60. Elegant in that way that came from decades of practice. Cashmere coat, leather gloves, hair that had been dyed and styled to perfection. She walked with a cane, but it looked more like an accessory than a necessity. She stopped a few feet from Ilara, smiled. The expression didn't reach her eyes. "Ilara Vance. Or should I say, Moretti?" Her voice was the same from the phone. Smoke and razors. "Who are you?" "Margaret Kane, though the name won't mean anything to you yet." She gestured toward a bench. "Shall we sit? I'm not as young as I used to be." Ilara didn't move. "Tell me what you know. Then I'll decide if I'm staying." Margaret's smile widened. "Smart. Your father raised you well." She pulled out a phone, tapped the screen, held it up. A photo. Old, grainy. 3 men standing outside what looked like a warehouse. Ilara recognized one immediately. Her father, younger, hair still dark. The second man was older, distinguished, with Dante's eyes. His father. The third man she didn't know. Handsome, cold, looking at the camera like he owned it. That's Victor Kane, Margaret said. My late husband. Taken 23 years ago, before everything went to hell. She lowered the phone. Your father, Antonio Moretti, and Victor. Partners. Brothers, practically. They built an empire together. My father wasn't what? Criminal? Dirty? Margaret laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. Oh, sweetheart, your father was the best of them. The one with a conscience. The one who tried to keep them all from drowning in blood. She sat on the bench uninvited. But conscience doesn't pay the bills, doesn't protect the people you love. Eventually, he had to choose. Alar's legs felt weak. She sat. Choose what? Between loyalty and survival. Between his partners and his daughter. Margaret stared at the water. 23 years ago, there was a deal. Big, millions of dollars. 3 families working together. Moretti, Kane, Russo. Your father was the mediator, the one everyone trusted to make sure nobody got screwed. What happened? Someone did get screwed, the Russos. Someone fed the feds information about their operation, bank accounts, shipment routes, everything. Margaret's fingers tightened on her cane. They thought it was Victor, almost started a war, but then evidence appeared pointing to someone else. My father. Your father confessed, took the fall, said he'd been the leak. Margaret turned to look at Alara directly. He wasn't, but he confessed anyway. Disappeared for 3 years, came back a broken man. And the empire? It survived. Moretti came out on top. The Russos stayed in business. And Kane, She trailed off. Alara's mouth was dry. What happened to Kane? He was destroyed. Because while the feds were chasing the wrong lead, Antonio Moretti was quietly eliminating the competition, taking over Kane territories, absorbing his operations. By the time anyone realized what happened, it was too late. Margaret's voice went hard. Victor died 5 years later. Heart attack, they said. But I know better. Stress, betrayal. Watching everything he built get stolen piece by piece. You're saying Dante's father set up my father, used him to destroy your husband. I'm saying your father was a good man who got played by monsters. Margaret pulled out another photo, this one recent. Dante and Serafina at some gala, looking like they belonged on magazine covers. Serafina Russo. Her family lost almost as much as mine. Her father's entire operation crippled because of what happened 23 years ago, and now she's supposed to pretend like the Morettis didn't destroy them? She was engaged to Dante. Strategic alliance. Attempting to heal old wounds through marriage. Very Renaissance. Margaret's smile was bitter. But Dante called it off. Know why? He said she wanted something he couldn't give. Love. Margaret laughed. No, she wanted confession. Wanted him to admit what his father did. Clear the Russo name. Return what was stolen. She leaned closer. He refused. Told her the past was dead and she needed to accept it, so she walked away. And then, 3 months later, he marries you. Alara's head spun. Why? Why would he marry me if... Because you're James Vance's daughter, the man who took the fall, the man who saved the Moretti Empire. Margaret's eyes glittered. You're a symbol, proof that the Morettis pay their debts, that they honor sacrifice. Marrying you legitimizes everything his father did, makes it look noble instead of ruthless. No. Alara stood, her legs shook. No, he showed me the files. My father died naturally. Dante investigated. Of course he investigated. Had to make sure there were no loose ends, no evidence of what really happened. Margaret stood too, slower, leaning on her cane. Your father called the Moretti line in his final week, you know that? He was asking for work, for help with my debt. He was asking for protection. Someone had started digging into the old case, asking questions. Your father was scared they'd come after you to get to him. Margaret's voice softened. He died 3 days after his last call. Massive heart attack. Very convenient timing. The world tilted. Alara grabbed the bench to steady herself. You're saying Dante killed him. I'm saying someone did. And the only person with motive, means, and opportunity was Dante Moretti. Margaret pulled out a card, pressed it into Ilara's hand. Check his alibi for that night. Really check it. Chicago, he said. Look at the timestamps. Look at when he arrived versus when your father died. Then ask yourself why a man who supposedly loved your father would marry you 2 months after burying him. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve the truth. Because your father deserved better. And because Margaret's expression hardened. I want to see Dante Moretti lose everything the way he took everything from me. She walked away. Slow, steady. Leaving Ilara standing in the rain that had started again, staring at a business card that read, Margaret Kane, private investigator, with a phone number underneath. Ilara's hand shook so badly she almost dropped it. This was insane. Margaret Kane was a grieving widow with an axe to grind. Nothing she said could be trusted. But the details, the photo, the timeline. Ilara pulled out her phone, searched Moretti Kane Russo Conspiracy 2003, article after article, 3 families, a federal investigation, James Vance confessing to insider trading and information leaking, 3 years in minimum security, released on good behavior. She clicked deeper, found a photo from the trial. Her father, looking hollow, standing beside his lawyer. The date, October 2003. Ilara would have been 7. She remembered that year. Her father disappearing, her mother telling her he was away for work, the cramped apartment they moved to, the way her mother cried when she thought Ilara was sleeping. And then he came back. Different, quieter, working construction instead of whatever he'd done before. Never talking about those 3 years. She'd thought it was trauma from prison, from being away from family. But what if it was guilt? Shame from taking a fall for people who'd used him? She scrolled further. Found an article about Victor Kane's death. Heart attack, 2008. Survived by his wife Margaret and 2 sons. Then another article. 2015. Both sons dead. One in a car accident. One from a drug overdose. Margaret Kane, now alone, had accused Dante Moretti of orchestrating their deaths. No charges were filed. Insufficient evidence. Ilara's stomach churned. She clicked on images, found more photos of her father with Antonio Moretti, smiling. Brothers in everything but blood. And then a photo that made her blood run cold. Dante, 17 years old, standing next to her father outside a garage, her father's hand on Dante's shoulder, both of them looking at the camera. The caption, local contractor James Vance and family friend after community cleanup event. The date, August 2008, 3 months before Victor Kane died. This was the moment. When her father had saved Dante, when the debt had been created, or when Dante had been planted in her father's life. A connection, a future investment. No. She was spiraling, seeing conspiracy where there was just coincidence. But Margaret's words echoed. Check his alibi. Ilara pulled up the files Marcus had given her. Dante's private investigation into her father's death. There. Flight records. Chicago to home city. Departed 6 a.m., March 20th. Landed 8:47 a.m. Her father had died the night of the 19th. Time of death estimated between 10 p.m. and midnight. Dante was in Chicago. Confirmed. But then she noticed something. The investigation file showed Dante's hotel checkout, 5:45 a.m., March 20th. So he'd been there all night, safe alibi. Except, Ilara pulled up flight times, Chicago to their city. Multiple flights, including a 1 a.m. departure that landed at 2:47 a.m. Someone could have flown out middle of the night, done what needed doing, flown back in time for the morning flight home. She was reaching. Had to be reaching. But she pulled up credit card records from the file. Dante's Black Amex. Charges in Chicago through March 19th. Then nothing until March 20th. Nothing during the window her father died. No hotel restaurant charges, no minibar, no room service. Nothing between 8 p.m. the 19th and 7 a.m. the 20th. Like the card hadn't been used. Like Dante hadn't been in that room. Ilara's vision blurred. She stumbled to a trash can and dry heaved. Nothing came up but bile and terror. This proved nothing. Dante could have paid cash, could have not been hungry, could have been sleeping.
But doubt had teeth now. Doubt had evidence. She needed more, needed certainty. The card in her hand felt like a brand. She typed the number into her phone, hesitated, then called. Margaret answered on the first ring. That was fast. Tell me how to prove it, one way or the other.
You want proof? Ask Serafina Russo. She knows things she's never said, things that could destroy Dante if she wanted. A pause. But she won't talk to me. We're not exactly friends. You, though, you're his wife. She might tell you the truth just to watch you burn. Where do I find her? She'll be at the Moretti estate gathering this Saturday. You're invited, aren't you? Margaret's voice turned sharp. Corner her. Make her talk. And Alara, be careful. You're playing with people who've killed for less than what you're asking about. The line went dead. Alara stood in the rain, soaked to the skin, holding a phone that felt like a weapon and a business card that felt like a detonator. Saturday, 3 days. She could tell Dante, lay this all out, demand the truth. But if Margaret was right, if Dante had killed her father or had him killed, then showing her hand meant dying, or disappearing, or whatever happened to people who knew too much in his world. If Margaret was wrong, if this was all manipulation, then Alara was destroying her marriage over lies from a vengeful woman with nothing left to lose. Either way, she was trapped. She walked back to the train station in a daze, rode home in silence while other passengers lived their normal lives, got off at her stop, walked the final blocks to the penthouse like she was walking to execution. The guards waved her through. The elevator climbed. The doors opened to the penthouse and Marie was there, holding towels like she'd been waiting. You're soaked. No judgment, just fact. I went for a walk. In the rain. I like the rain. Marie handed her a towel. Mr. Moretti called. He'll be home late. Business dinner. Her eyes met Alara's. You have time to think. Whatever you need to think about. I'm fine. Of course you are. Marie turned to leave, then paused. Mrs. Moretti? My sister worked for the Kane family years ago. She saw things, heard things. A long pause. She said Margaret Kane used to be kind. Before her husband died. Before her sons died. Before grief made her into something else. Marie looked back. Sometimes people tell the truth. Sometimes they just want company in their pain. Knowing which is which, that's the hard part. She left. Alara stood dripping in the entryway, towel clutched in numb fingers. She went upstairs, changed into dry clothes, sat on her bed and stared at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Text from Dante. Stuck in meeting. Won't be home until after midnight. Don't wait up. She stared at the message, tried to read subtext that might not exist. Was he avoiding her or just busy? She typed back, okay. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Are you all right? Fine, just tired. Get some rest. We'll talk tomorrow. The dots vanished. Alara set down the phone. Tomorrow. She'd see him tomorrow, could ask the questions burning in her throat, could demand answers, or she could wait. Go to the estate gathering, talk to Serafina, get confirmation before lighting the fuse. Sleep came in fragments. She dreamed of her father's face, of Dante's hands, of Margaret Kane standing in the rain with blood on her cane. When she woke, it was Thursday. 2 days until the gathering. Dante was already gone. Another early meeting. Another day of her sitting in this fortress, wondering what was real. But today she had a plan. She went down to Dante's office. The door was locked, but she knew where he kept the spare key, in a drawer in the library, hidden behind first edition books he'd never read. She let herself in. The office was immaculate, desk organized, files labeled, computer requiring a password she didn't have. But the filing cabinet in the corner only had a standard lock. Alara had learned to pick locks from her father. Useful skill when you're a broke college student who keeps losing her dorm key. It took 3 minutes. The drawer opened. Inside, contracts, financial records, property deeds. She rifled through, looking for anything marked March 2025. Found it. A folder labeled JV Estate, her father's initials. She pulled it out with shaking hands. Inside, the investigation Marcus had shown her, but also other documents, communication logs, security footage requests, and buried at the back, a single page that made her breath stop. A text message printout from Dante's phone. March 19th, 11:47 p.m. It's done. Reply from unknown number. Confirmed? Yes. Clean. No trace. Good. Continue as planned. Alara's vision tunneled. The paper shook in her hands. It's done. March 19th, the night her father died. She photographed it with trembling fingers. Put everything back exactly as she'd found it. Locked the drawer, replaced the key. Walked upstairs like a ghost. This was it. Proof. Dante had been involved. Unless the text was about something else, some other business, some other problem that needed solving. But the timing, the wording. Her phone rang. Dante, she stared at it. 6th ring. 7th. Answered. Hey. Her voice sounded normal. Distant miracle. You sound strange. What's wrong? Nothing. Just woke up. It's noon. I didn't sleep well. Silence on his end. Then, I'm sorry I've been absent. This deal is taking more time than expected, but I'll be home tonight. We can have dinner, talk. About what? Whatever you want. His voice softened. I know this hasn't been easy. The arrangement, the public appearances, Serafina showing up everywhere. You've handled it better than I had any right to expect. Guilt. He sounded guilty. Or she was projecting, hearing what she expected to hear. Dante, when my father called your line that last week, what did he say exactly? The silence stretched too long. He said he needed help, that something was wrong, that he was worried about you. Worried how? He didn't give details, just asked if I could look into something, make sure you were safe. And did you? I tried, but he died before I could follow up. Dante's voice roughened. I've regretted that every day since. If I'd moved faster, if I'd taken it more seriously. What did the text mean? What text? March 19th, 11:47 p.m. It's done. Who were you talking to? The silence was different now, sharper, dangerous. How do you know about that text? I saw it. In your files. You went through my files. Not a question. A statement. Cold. Flat. You said you'd show me everything. That text wasn't in Marcus's folder. Because it wasn't relevant. That text was about a business deal closing, a shipment that needed to arrive on time. At midnight? My business doesn't keep office hours, Alara. His voice hardened. What's this about? What are you accusing me of? I'm not accusing. I'm asking. No, you're investigating, questioning, doubting. A pause. Who have you been talking to? Her heart hammered. No one. Don't lie to me. Someone's been in your ear, planting ideas, making you suspicious. Another pause. Was it Serafina? No. Then who? It doesn't matter. The hell it doesn't. Someone's trying to turn you against me, using your father's death, twisting facts into conspiracy. His voice dropped. Tell me who. Why? So you can make them disappear like you make all your problems disappear? The words hung there. Toxic. Irreversible. Dante's breath came hard through the phone. I'm coming home. We're talking about this face to face. Don't bother. I won't be here. Alara? She hung up. Stood in the middle of her bedroom, breathing hard. Her phone rang immediately. Dante. She declined. It rang again. 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 Finally a text. Don't run, please. Whatever you think you know, let me explain. She turned off the phone. Grabbed her wallet. The business card. Nothing else. Went downstairs. Marie was in the kitchen. Looked up as Alara passed. Mrs. Moretti, I'm going out. Mr. Moretti said you should wait. He's on his way. I don't take orders from Mr. Moretti. She walked out. Took the elevator down. The guards in the lobby looked uncertain but didn't stop her. She hit the street and started walking. No plan, no destination, just movement. Away from the penthouse, away from Dante, away from everything. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. She ignored it. 3 blocks. 5. 10. She found herself outside a coffee shop, went in, ordered something, sat in the back corner where she could see the door, turned on her phone. 17 missed calls, 9 texts. Please don't do this. Let me explain. You're in danger if you're alone. Alara, answer me. Whoever told you lies is using you. I never hurt your father. Answer your phone. I'm losing my mind. Please, be safe.
I love you. She stared at the last message. Read it 3 times. I love you. The contract had said no intimacy, no emotion, no attachment. He was breaking the rules. Or manipulating her, using her feelings against her. She didn't know anymore, couldn't trust her own judgment. A shadow fell across the table. Ilara looked up, expecting Dante. It was Serafina. She stood there in a black coat, perfect as always, holding a coffee cup and wearing an expression that might have been pity. You look like hell, she said. What do you want? To talk. May I? She gestured to the empty chair. Ilara should say no, should walk away. But Serafina was the key, the one who knew things, the one Margaret said would talk. Sit. Serafina sat gracefully, sipped her coffee, studied Ilara with those cut-glass eyes. He's called me 6 times in the last hour. Frantic. Asking if I've seen you, if I know where you are. She tilted her head. I told him I didn't. I'm a better liar than you. Why are you here? Because I saw you leave the penthouse looking like you'd seen a ghost. Followed you. Wanted to see if you'd finally figured it out. Figured what out? The truth about Dante, about what he is. Serafina leaned back. You met Margaret Kane, didn't you? Ilara's breath caught. How? Because she contacted me first, weeks ago. Told me she was going to expose Dante. Use you to do it. Serafina's smile was sharp. I told her to go ahead, watch the empire burn. So you know, about my father, about what happened. I know Dante's father was a monster who destroyed good men to build his kingdom. I know your father took a fall he didn't deserve. I know Dante has spent his entire adult life trying to be different while using the same ruthless methods. She set down her coffee. And I know he didn't kill your father. The words hit like cold water. What? James Vance died of a heart attack, natural causes. Dante wasn't involved. I know this because I had my own people investigate when Margaret first approached me. She's not lying about the past, but she's wrong about your father's death. The text message, March 19th, it's done, was about a shipment of medical equipment arriving from overseas. I checked. Customs records confirm it. Serafina pulled out her phone, showed Ilara a document. Official stamps, signatures, timeline matching perfectly. Ilara's hands shook. You're lying, protecting him. Why would I protect Dante? I hate him. He humiliated me. Ended our engagement because I wanted him to admit the truth about his father. Serafina's eyes glittered. But hating him doesn't mean I'll watch an innocent man get destroyed by a grieving woman's revenge fantasy. Margaret said, Margaret lost everything. Her husband, her sons, her entire life. She needs someone to blame, someone to punish. Dante's the perfect target. Serafina leaned forward. But listen to me carefully. Dante Moretti is a lot of things. Ruthless, calculating, dangerous. But he didn't kill your father. And he married you because he genuinely believes he owes James Vance a debt. Not because you're some trophy or symbol. How do you know? Because I know him. Better than anyone. Better than you. Pain flickered across her perfect face. He loved your father. Talked about him constantly. Called him the only good man he'd ever known. When James died, Dante shut down for weeks. Disappeared. Came back different. She pulled back. Then he married you. And I thought it was spite. Thought he was trying to hurt me. But watching you two at the gala, seeing how he looks at you. What? He's falling for you. Actually, falling. The thing he swore he'd never do. Serafina stood. So you can believe Margaret's poison and destroy him. Or you can go home and ask for the truth. Really ask. Really listen. Your choice. She walked away. Left Ilara sitting there with a cold coffee and a mind that wouldn't stop spinning. Serafina defending Dante. Margaret accusing him, both with their own agendas, both with reasons to lie. And Dante calling 17 times, texting words he'd promised never to feel. Ilara pulled up the photo of the text message. Stared at it until the words blurred. It's done. Medical equipment, or murder, business, or conspiracy. She stood, left money on the table, walked outside into afternoon light that felt wrong somehow, too bright, too normal for a world falling apart. Her phone rang. Not Dante this time. Unknown number.
She answered without thinking.
Elara, it's Marcus, Dante's lawyer. He asked me to call you. I'm not interested. Listen to me. You're in danger. Real danger. If you've been in contact with Margaret Kane, if you've been feeding her information, you need to disappear. Now. Her blood went cold. What are you talking about?
Margaret Kane isn't just a grieving widow. She's been building a case against Dante for years. FBI, racketeering, conspiracy. She's trying to take down the entire organization. And if she's made contact with you, if she thinks you can be a witness, Marcus's voice dropped. They'll come for you, both sides. Margaret to use you, Dante's enemies to eliminate you. You need protection. Where are you right now? I'm not telling you that. Elara, please. Dante is losing his mind. He's called in every favor, every contact, trying to find you, keep you safe. Whatever you think he's done, whatever you've been told, you need to know that without his protection right now, you're a target. For who? For everyone, Static crackled. There's a car 2 blocks from your location, black sedan. Driver's name is Thomas. He'll take you somewhere safe, somewhere you can think, somewhere Dante can explain everything without either of you being in danger. This is insane. This is the world you married into. Please, get in the car, let him talk to you, then decide what you believe. The line went dead. Elara stood on the sidewalk, breath coming in short gasps. Paranoia or truth? Protection or trap? She looked around, saw the black sedan idling at the corner. Tinted windows. Anonymous. Could be Thomas. Could be someone else. Someone sent by Margaret, or Dante's enemies. Or the passenger window rolled down. A woman leaned out. Older. Professional. Mrs. Moretti, I'm Agent Sarah Chen, FBI. I need you to come with me. Now. You're in immediate danger. Elara's heart stopped. FBI. Margaret had been telling the truth. There was an investigation. And now Elara was caught in the middle. Evidence. Witness. Target. The agent stepped out, held up credentials. They looked real. But Elara had seen enough movies to know credentials could be faked. Mrs. Moretti, please. We have reason to believe there's a hit out on you. Multiple parties want you silenced before you can testify. Testify about what? I don't know anything. You know enough. And that's the problem. Chen moved closer. Please, come with me. We'll keep you safe, get you into protection, but we need to move now. Behind her, another car pulled up. The black sedan Marcus had mentioned. The driver got out. Young, professional. Mrs. Moretti, I'm Thomas. Mr. Moretti sent me to out. Step back, Chen ordered. Her hand moved to her hip, to a gun. Thomas froze. I'm just trying to help. You're interfering with federal business. Back off, or I will arrest you. Thomas looked at Elara. Don't go with her, please. Mr. Moretti said. I don't care what Mr. Moretti said. Chen took Elara's arm, firm. You're coming with me. Let go. Elara tried to pull away. Mrs. Moretti, I can't protect you if you fight me. I said let go. A third car screeched around the corner, black SUV, windows down. Elara saw the gun barrel before she heard the first shot. Glass exploded. Chen shoved Elara to the ground. Thomas dove behind his car. People on the sidewalk screamed, ran, chaos erupting in seconds. More shots. Chen fired back. The SUV sped past, tires squealing. Elara lay flat on concrete, ears ringing, tasting blood where she'd bit her lip. Chen hauled her up. Move, now! They ran. Thomas was shouting something. Chen dragged Elara toward her car, shoved her in the back seat, peeled out before the door was even closed. Elara twisted around, saw Thomas on his phone, probably calling Dante, saw people emerging from cover, saw the SUV disappearing. What the hell was that? Her voice shook. Exactly what I warned you about. Chen's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. Cold, professional. Welcome to the war, Mrs. Moretti. Welcome to the war, Mrs. Moretti. Hope you survive it. The car screamed through traffic. Chen drove like she'd done this 1,000 times, cutting lanes, running lights, checking mirrors every 3 seconds. Elara braced against the door, tasting copper and adrenaline. Who were they? Her voice came out raw. Could be anyone. Kane's people. The Russos. Someone Dante pissed off last week. Chen's eyes never left the road. You painted a target on yourself the second you started asking questions. I didn't ask for this. You married into it. Chen swerved around a bus. Difference is, most mob wives know what they're signing up for. You walked in blind. Alara's phone vibrated. Dante. 18th call. She stared at it. Don't answer that, Chen snapped. Your phone's how they tracked you. How did you? We've been monitoring Moretti communications for 6 months, waiting for someone to crack. Someone on the inside who could give us what we need. Chen glanced in the mirror. Congratulations. You're that someone. I don't know anything. You know more than you think. Bank accounts, property holdings, people who visit the penthouse, conversations you've overheard. The car swerved into an underground garage. All of it's useful. All of it helps us build the case. The garage was empty except for 2 other federal vehicles. Chen parked, killed the engine, pulled out her gun, and scanned the space before nodding. Clear. Let's move. She hauled Alara out and toward a service elevator, hit the button for sublevel 3. The doors closed. Silence except for Alara's ragged breathing and the mechanical whir of descent. Where are we going? Safe house? Off the grid. You'll stay there until we sort this mess out. And then what? Then you testify. Help us put Dante Moretti away for the rest of his life. Chen's expression was stone. Or you refuse? Go back to him, and we watch you end up like every other woman who got too close to the truth. Your choice. The elevator opened to a concrete hallway. Fluorescent lights, no windows. Chen led her to a steel door, punched in a code, pushed it open. Inside was a studio apartment that looked like it came from a catalog titled Depressing Government Housing. Beige walls, single bed, kitchenette with a microwave and mini fridge, 1 bathroom, 1 window with bars. Home sweet home, Chen said without irony. There's food in the fridge, clothes in the closet, phone on the nightstand is secure. Only calls to federal numbers. Don't try to leave. Armed guards outside for your protection. This is a prison. This is protection. Big difference. Chen moved to the door. Someone will be by in the morning to debrief you. Get some rest. You look like hell. Wait, Alara's voice cracked. Is any of it true? What Margaret Kane said about my father? About Dante's father destroying the Kanes and Russos? Chen paused. Something shifted in her expression. Almost sympathy. Yeah, it's true. Antonio Moretti was a ruthless bastard who built an empire on other people's suffering. Your father took a fall to protect that empire. Whether he did it willingly or was coerced, she shrugged. We may never know. He took that answer to the grave. And my father's death? Far as we can tell? Natural causes? Heart attack? No evidence of foul play. Chen met her eyes. But absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Just means if someone did kill him, they were good enough not to leave traces. The door closed. Locks engaged with heavy clicks. Alara stood in the middle of the safe house feeling more trapped than she ever had in Dante's penthouse. She collapsed on the bed, stared at the ceiling, tried to process the last 4 hours. Gunshots, FBI, safe house, testimony. This was insane. Her phone was still in her pocket. 23 missed calls now. She pulled it up. Saw Dante's name filling the screen. Against every instinct, she played the last voicemail. Alara. His voice was wrecked, desperate in a way she'd never heard. I don't know where you are. I don't know if you're safe, but please, if you get this, call me back. Let me know you're alive. A long pause filled with breathing. Margaret Kane is lying. I can prove it. I can prove everything. Just give me a chance, please. Another pause. I never lied about your father. I never hurt him. And I swear on everything I have left, I will keep you safe. Even if you hate me. Even if you never want to see me again. Just let me protect you. The message ended. Alara's eyes burned. She threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. Protect her. Everyone wanted to protect her. Chen, Dante, Margaret, Serafina. All of them pulling her in different directions while claiming it was for her own good. She was so tired of being pulled. Sleep didn't come. She lay there for hours listening to footsteps in the hallway. Guards changing shifts, voices too muffled to make out. Somewhere above, the city continued existing without her. At some point, she must have dozed because she woke to pounding on the door. Mrs. Moretti, open up! She stumbled to the door. It's locked from the outside. The locks disengaged. The door flew open. Not Chen this time. A man. Late 40s, gray suit, face like weathered leather. He showed her a badge. Agent Frank Morrison, FBI. We need to move you, now. What? Why? Your location's been compromised. We have approximately 3 minutes before hostile forces arrive. He grabbed her arm. Let's go. Hostile forces? What are you? Gunfire erupted somewhere above. Automatic weapons, screaming. Morrison swore and pulled a gun. Change of plans. Stay behind me. They ran into the hallway. 2 guards lay on the ground, dead, blood pooling. Alara's stomach lurched. Morrison moved fast for a big man, checking corners, gun up, professional. They made it to the service stairs, started climbing. More gunfire. Closer now. Morrison pushed her against the wall. Stay here. Don't move. He disappeared around the corner. Shots fired. Someone screamed. Then silence. Morrison came back. Blood on his shirt, not his. Clear. Move. They climbed 3 more floors, burst into an alley. A car was waiting. Black sedan, engine running. Morrison shoved her toward it. The back door opened. Alara froze. Dante sat inside. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, suit rumpled, tie gone, eyes red-rimmed and wild. When he saw her, something in his face broke and rebuilt itself. Get in, Morrison ordered. You're FBI, Alara said stupidly. Why are you? I'm also pragmatic. Dante Moretti offered me $500,000 to get you out alive. Federal salary doesn't compete. He pushed her toward the car. Go, before I change my mind. Alara stumbled into the back seat. Morrison slammed the door. The car peeled out. Dante stared at her like she was a ghost. Didn't touch her, didn't speak, just stared. You bribed an FBI agent, she finally said. I'd have burned the city down. His voice was gravel. Are you hurt? No. You're bleeding. She touched her lip. The cut from earlier had reopened. It's nothing. It's not nothing. He pulled out a handkerchief, monogrammed, expensive, absurd in this moment, and handed it to her. Who shot at you? I don't know. Chen said, Chen's not FBI. She's a mercenary working for Margaret Kane. Dante's jaw clenched. Margaret's been planning this for months. Hired people to impersonate agents, feed you information, make you trust them, then use you as bait to draw me out. How do you know? Because the real FBI raided my penthouse an hour ago. Actual federal agents with actual warrants. They showed me footage from Margaret's security system, showed me Chen's real identity. His hands fisted. She was going to kill you. Make it look like I did it. Frame me for murder on top of everything else. Alara's head spun. Morrison is actually FBI. Dirty, but actual law enforcement. I found him through contacts. Made a deal. Dante looked out the window. He gets you out. I give him enough money to disappear before his superiors realize he helped me. So everyone's corrupt. Everyone's lying. Welcome to my world. No bitterness, just exhaustion. The car drove in silence. Alara watched the city blur past. Tried to sort truth from deception and couldn't find the line anymore. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere no one will think to look. Dante pulled out his phone, typed something. The estate. It's the only place with enough security to keep you alive until this is over. The gatherings tomorrow, canceled. Everyone's been told to stay away. He looked at her. It's just us, and the guards, and whatever comes next. The estate was an hour outside the city. Winding roads through hills that got greener and emptier. Finally, gates that looked like they belonged to a fortress. Armed guards, dogs, cameras everywhere. The house itself was massive, stone and wood and glass. Old money mixed with new power, surrounded by walls and watchmen, and enough firepower to hold off an army. Dante led her inside, through a foyer that could fit her entire childhood home, up a staircase that belonged in a museum. Down a hallway lined with portraits of dead Morettis who all had the same cold eyes. He opened a door to a bedroom. Not his. Guest room. Huge bed, fireplace, windows overlooking gardens that probably cost more to maintain than most people's mortgages. You'll be safe here, he said. Guards outside. Panic button by the bed. If anything happens, press it. What about you? I'll be downstairs, making calls, trying to fix this. Dante? She caught his arm before he could leave, felt the tension in his muscles, the exhaustion. Did you kill my father? He looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. No. Did you have him killed? No. Do you know who did? He died of a heart attack, Elara. Natural causes. I've had 3 separate investigations confirm it. I can show you everything. Medical records, autopsy, witness statements. His voice cracked. I loved your father. He was the only good thing in my life for years. I would never... But you used his death. Used me. This marriage, it's about clearing your conscience. Making yourself feel better about building an empire on the backs of people like him. Dante flinched like she'd hit him. Yes. The admission stunned her. Yes, he repeated. I married you out of guilt, out of obligation, out of wanting to fix something I couldn't fix. Your father died, and I couldn't save him, and marrying you was the only way I knew how to make it right. He stepped closer. But somewhere between the contract and now, it stopped being about guilt. Don't. I'm falling for you. The words came out like a confession, like something ripped from his chest. I wasn't supposed to. That wasn't the deal. But I can't look at you without feeling things I swore I'd never feel. Can't watch you navigate my world without wanting to burn it all down and give you something better. His hands shook. And I know you don't believe me. Know you think it's manipulation or strategy or whatever Margaret planted in your head. But it's the truth. The only real truth I have left. Elara's throat closed. You said you'd never love anyone. I lied. He looked wrecked, vulnerable in a way that seemed physically painful. Or I was wrong. I don't know anymore. She wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly her chest ached. But belief was dangerous. Belief was how people got destroyed. I need time, she whispered. I know. He backed toward the door. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, keeping you alive, even if you decide to leave when this is over. He left. The door closed quietly. Elara sat on the bed and buried her face in her hands. Falling for you. 3 words that changed everything and nothing. She didn't sleep. Spent the night pacing, trying to think, trying to separate what she felt from what she knew. Dante was dangerous, connected to violence and crime and things that got people killed. But he'd also saved her, protected her, broken his own rules for her. Margaret Kane wanted revenge, had manipulated Elara into doubting everything, but she'd also told truths about the past, about the empire built on suffering. Serafina had defended Dante while admitting she hated him. Chen had been fake. Morrison had been real but corrupt. Everyone had agendas. Everyone had angles. And Elara was caught in the middle with no idea who to trust. Dawn came slowly, gray light filtering through expensive curtains. Elara finally gave up on clarity and went downstairs. The house was quiet. Guards at doors. No staff. Just security and silence. She found Dante in what looked like a war room. Maps spread across a table. Laptop open. Phone pressed to his ear while he argued in Italian with someone who sounded equally angry. He saw her and held up one finger. Finished the call. Set down the phone. Coffee? He offered. Please. He poured from a French press that had probably been sitting there for hours. Handed her a mug. Their fingers brushed. He pulled back like she'd burned him. They stood on opposite sides of the table. The maps showed property holdings, shipping routes, things she didn't understand. What are you planning? She asked. Ending this. Margaret Kane wants a war. I'm going to give her one. His voice was flat, professional, the mask back in place. She's been building a case with the FBI. Real FBI this time. But her evidence is mostly circumstantial, hearsay, nothing that sticks. So you're safe. I'm never safe, but I'm hard to prosecute. He took a drink of coffee, grimaced. It was definitely hours old. The problem is she's also been reaching out to my enemies, the families I've beaten over the years, offering alliances, promising them pieces of my territory if they help take me down. How many enemies do you have? Too many to count. A grim smile. But 3 that matter. The Russos, the Castellanos, And what's left of the Kane operation, Margaret's nephews still bitter about losing their inheritance. So you're outnumbered. I'm always outnumbered. Numbers don't win wars, information does. Leverage, fear. He looked at her. And I have plenty of all three. What are you going to do? Dismantle them, one by one, starting with the weakest link. He pulled up a photo on his laptop. Margaret Kane. Recent. She looked older than in the park. Tired. Margaret made a mistake. She went after you personally, shot at you in broad daylight. The FBI's not happy about that. Even the dirty ones. So she's exposed. She's desperate, which makes her dangerous. Dante closed the laptop. I'm meeting with the other families tonight. Here. Neutral ground. Going to offer them a choice, stand down and keep what they have, or fight and lose everything. They won't choose peace. Probably not, but I'll have made the offer. Witnesses, documentation, so when I destroy them, it's self-defense. He met her eyes. This is what I do, Ilara. This is who I am. Ruthless, calculated, willing to do terrible things to protect what's mine. I'm not yours. No. But you're in my world now, and in my world, you're either protected or you're prey. He moved around the table, slow, deliberate. I can get you out, right now, put you on a plane to anywhere you want, give you enough money to disappear forever. You'd be free, safe, away from all of this. Her heart hammered. Why would you do that? Because despite everything, despite the contract and the guilt and the falling, I don't want you destroyed by this life. His voice dropped. You deserve better. Better than me, better than this world. And if letting you go is what keeps you alive, then that's what I'll do. The offer hung between them, real, genuine, freedom, safety, everything she'd wanted before this started. All she had to do was walk away. Ilara looked at him, at the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the man who'd broken every rule he'd set for himself. What if I don't want to go? Dante's expression cracked. Then you're insane. Probably. She set down her coffee. But I'm also tired of running, tired of letting other people decide what's best for me. My father, you, Margaret, the FBI. She stepped closer. You want to end this? Fine. But I'm staying. I'm seeing it through. Ilara, you said I was yours to protect. That means I have a say. She held his gaze. So protect me. But don't send me away. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then something in him shifted. Decision made. Okay. Okay? You stay. But you follow my lead. Do what I say when I say it. No arguments, no hesitation. His voice went hard. Because tonight, when those families get here, when Margaret makes her move, and she will make a move, it's going to get ugly. People will die. Blood will spill. And you need to be ready for that. I'm ready. You're not, but you will be. He pulled out his phone, made a call. Marco, she's staying. Get her prepared. Within an hour, Marco Castellano arrived with two women Ilara didn't recognize. They brought clothes, not gowns, tactical gear. Bulletproof vests disguised as evening wear, shoes she could run in, earpiece, panic button disguised as jewelry. You're going to a war council, Marco explained while the women worked. Russo, Castellano, Kane representatives, all sitting down to negotiate with Dante. You'll be there. Visible. Proof that Dante's stable. Committed. Not spiraling. I'm proof? You're his wife. That means legitimacy. Power. Marco studied her. But you're also a target. Everyone in that room will be measuring you, deciding if you're useful or disposable. You need to show strength. How? By not flinching. By standing beside him like you belong there. By making them believe you're as dangerous as he is. Marco smiled without warmth. Fake it if you have to. Just don't break. The women finished, stepped back. Ilara looked in the mirror. She looked like someone else. Someone harder. Someone who could survive in rooms full of wolves. Good, Marco said. Now let's pray you don't have to use any of this. The families arrived at sunset, cars rolling through gates, armed guards, everyone scanning everyone else for threats. The Russos came first. Serafina's father, Victor Russo, named after Margaret's dead husband, old alliances trying to resurrect themselves. He was 60, silver-haired,
moves like a man who'd killed people and slept fine afterward. Serafina walked beside him. She saw Alara, and something flickered in her eyes. Warning, maybe. Or pity. The Castellanos arrived next. Marco and his brother Antonio, cold, professional, calculating every angle. And finally, the Canes. Not Margaret herself, too smart for that, but her nephews, Derek and Michael, late 30s wearing suits that didn't quite fit, hungry, desperate to reclaim what they thought was stolen. They gathered in the estate's main hall, a room designed for this. Long table, high ceilings, portraits of dead Morettis watching from the walls. Dante stood at the head, Alara beside him. United front. The others sat, waited. "Thank you for coming," Dante began. Voice calm, controlled. "We're here because Margaret Kane has been attempting to orchestrate a war between our families, using lies, manipulation, false evidence. I'm offering you all one chance to step back before this escalates beyond repair." Victor Russo laughed, actually laughed. "You think we're children, Moretti, scared of your threats? I think you're businessmen who understand profit and loss." Dante's gaze didn't waver. "War costs money, lives, territory. Even if you win, you lose. I'm offering you peace, status quo maintained. Everyone keeps what they have. And you keep your empire," Derek Kane spat, "built on our backs, our family's blood. Your family's lost because they made poor choices. That's not my fault." "The hell it's not!" Derek stood. His brother grabbed his arm. "Your father destroyed us, systematically, using our uncle as a scapegoat while he—" "My father's been dead for 8 years," Dante interrupted. "Whatever he did or didn't do is history. This is about now, about choosing war or peace." "Easy choice," Michael Caine smiled. "Dangerous. War." The room exploded, not with gunfire, with accusations, demands, old grievances spilling like poison. Victor Russo listing every territory Dante's father had taken, Marco Castellano bringing up betrayals from a decade ago, the Caine brothers screaming about justice, and Dante standing calm in the center of the storm, waiting for them to exhaust themselves. Alara's heart hammered. Her hand found the panic button disguised as a bracelet. Ready. "Enough!" Dante's voice cut through. Not loud, but absolute. "You want war? Fine. But understand what that means. I have files on every one of you. Every illegal deal. Every body buried. Every law broken. I go down, I take you all with me." "Mutually assured destruction," Victor said. "Classic. Effective." Dante pulled out a tablet, slid it across the table. "That's just a sample. Tax evasion, racketeering, murder for hire. All documented. All ready to be delivered to federal prosecutors if anything happens to me or mine." The room went quiet. Everyone staring at the tablet like it was a bomb. Derek Kane's hand moved toward his jacket. Alara saw it, saw the motion. Gun. She hit the panic button. Alarms blared. Guards burst through doors. And Derek pulled his weapon. Everything happened in slow motion and too fast at once. Derek aimed at Dante. Alara moved without thinking, threw herself between them. Felt Dante's hands grab her waist, pull her down as the shot fired. The bullet hit the wall where Dante's head had been. Guards tackled Derek. Michael fought back. Victor and Serafina dove for cover. Marco pulled his own weapon. The room descended into chaos. Dante dragged Alara behind the table, covered her body with his. "Stay down!" More shots. Someone screaming. The sharp smell of gunpowder and fear. Then silence. Abrupt. Violent. Alara looked up. Derek Kane on the ground. Dead. 2 bullets in his chest. Michael on his knees, hands behind his head, surrounded by guards. The Russos and Castellanos had their hands up, unarmed, smart enough not to fight. Dante stood slowly, pulled Alara up with him, checked her for injuries with shaking hands. "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm fine." "You threw yourself in front of a bullet. So did you." He stared at her like she was insane, then pulled her close, held her like she might disappear. His heart hammered against her ear. "Insane," he muttered. "Absolutely insane." "Learned from the best." He laughed, broken, relieved. Victor Russo cleared his throat. "Well, that was dramatic." Dante released Alara but kept her close, turned to face the room. "Anyone else want to try something stupid?" Silence.
Good. He gestured to the guards. Take Michael Caine into custody. Call the real FBI. Tell them we have someone who just attempted murder in front of multiple witnesses. You're going to cooperate with the feds? Marco sounded surprised. I'm going to give them the Caines, all of them, including Margaret. Dante's voice went cold. She sent her nephews to kill me. That's a declaration of war, and I'm ending it. What about us, Ushit? Serafina asked quietly. Dante looked at her. At Victor. At Marco. That depends. Are we done here, or do I need more bodies on the floor? Victor held his gaze, then slowly smiled. We're done. For now. For now is enough. Dante straightened his jacket, composed himself. Get out. All of you, before I change my mind. They left. Quickly. Guards escorting them to their cars. When the room was finally empty except for Dante, Alara, and the dead body being photographed for evidence, Dante turned to her. You need to leave. Tonight. This isn't over. Margaret will... No. Alara... I said no. She met his eyes. You don't get to protect me by sending me away. Not anymore. I'm in this. All the way. You could have died. So could you. She stepped closer, close enough to see the fear in his eyes, the rage, the desperate need to keep her safe. I'm not leaving you to fight this alone. Why? Why stay? Why risk everything for a man you met 2 months ago? For a marriage that was supposed to be fake? Because somewhere between the contract and now, it stopped being fake for me too. The admission hung in the air, raw, irreversible. Dante's control shattered. He kissed her. Not gentle, not tentative, desperate, consuming, like he was drowning and she was air. Alara kissed him back, felt every rule they'd made burn to ash, felt the walls they'd built between them collapse. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Dante pressed his forehead to hers. This is insane, he whispered. I know. We're going to get each other killed. Probably. I love you. The words hit like lightning. I know. He laughed. Rough, real. You're supposed to say it back. I'm still deciding if I'm that far gone. But she smiled, traced his jaw with her fingers. Ask me again when we're not surrounded by federal evidence and dead bodies. Deal. A guard cleared his throat from the doorway. Sir, we have a problem. Dante's expression went cold. Professional, back to business. What kind of problem? Margaret Caine. She's at the gates, demanding to be let in. Says she's here to negotiate. Negotiate? Dante's laugh was sharp. She just sent her nephews to kill me. She claims that wasn't sanctioned, claims Derek and Michael went rogue. She wants to make a deal before the FBI gets involved. Dante looked at Alara. This is a trap, obviously. But we need to end this tonight before anyone else dies. So we meet with her. We? Alara lifted her chin. You're not facing her alone. For a moment she thought he'd argue, but something in his expression shifted. Acceptance. Partnership. Okay, we face her together. He turned to the guard. Let her in, main sitting room. Search her for weapons, then bring her to us. The guard nodded and left. Dante pulled Alara close one more time. Whatever happens in there, whatever she says, remember that I'm on your side. Always. Same. They walked to the sitting room hand in hand, ready for the final confrontation, ready to end the war Margaret Caine had started. The door opened. Margaret walked in. No Caine this time, no pretense of frailty, just a woman with nothing left to lose and revenge burning in her eyes. She looked at Dante, then at Alara, smiled. Well, isn't this cozy? The monster and his pet. Dante's hand tightened on Alara's. You have 5 minutes. Talk. I want what you stole, what your father stole. Everything the Morettis took from my family. Margaret's voice was steel. Territory, assets, the truth about what really happened 23 years ago. Public acknowledgement, restitution. In exchange for what? I call off the dogs. Tell the FBI I was mistaken. Convince the other families to stand down. She pulled out a document, set it on the table. Sign this. transfer half your holdings to Kane legacy accounts. Admit your father framed Victor, and we all walk away alive. Dante picked up the document, read it, laughed. This is half my empire. Sounds fair, considering you took all of ours. I didn't take anything. My father did, and he's dead. But you benefited. You're still benefiting. Every dollar in your account is blood money built on our suffering. Margaret's eyes blazed. So pay it back, or I burn you to the ground. You can't touch me. Not anymore. The FBI is coming for your nephews, for you. Attempted murder, conspiracy. You're done, Margaret. Maybe, but I'll take you with me. She pulled out her phone, showed them a screen. One button, that's all it takes. I've sent everything I have to every news outlet in the city. Every detail about your operations, your connections, your crimes. You'll be arrested by morning. Your empire will collapse. And your precious wife? Margaret looked at Alara with something cold and hateful. She'll learn exactly what kind of monster she married. Every body, every betrayal, every life you destroyed to build this kingdom. She'll see it all, and then we'll find out if she still looks at you with those adoring eyes. The threat hung in the air, toxic, final. Dante's face was stone, but his hand shook in Alara's. This was the choice. Give up everything he'd built or watch it burn. Save his empire or save his soul. Alara looked at Margaret, at the woman who'd lost everything and decided to take everyone down with her, then at Dante, at the man who'd broken every rule for her. And she made her decision. Do it, Alara said. Both of them stared at her. Press the button, Alara continued. Send the files. Let the world see what Dante is, what he's done. Let them judge. She stepped forward. Because I already know, and I'm still here. Margaret's expression flickered. You're bluffing. I'm not. You think showing me Dante's crimes will make me leave? You think I don't know what I married into? Alara's voice was steady, strong. I've seen the files, know the truth, and I chose him anyway. Not because I'm stupid or desperate or manipulated, because he's the only person in this whole mess who's been honest about what he is. She turned to Dante. You're ruthless, dangerous. You've done terrible things, but you've also tried to be better. For me, for my father's memory. That matters. Back to Margaret. So push your button, burn it all down, but you won't destroy him, and you won't get your revenge. You'll just prove that grief turned you into exactly what you hated. Margaret's hand trembled on the phone, fury and pain and defeat warring on her face. You don't understand, she whispered. They took everything. My husband, my sons, my entire life. Someone has to pay. My father paid. Alara's voice broke slightly. He took the fall, went to prison, lost 3 years of his life protecting an empire that destroyed you, and then he died, broken, alone. So believe me, I understand loss. Then how can you stand beside him? Because holding on to hate will kill you faster than they ever could. Alara met her eyes. Let it go, Margaret, please, before you lose what's left of yourself. For a long moment, Margaret just stood there, phone in hand, finger hovering over the button. Then slowly, she lowered it. I can't. Her voice was barely audible. I can't let it go, even if you're right, even if it destroys me. She looked at Dante. But I won't press this button, not because you deserve mercy, but because she does. Margaret walked to the door, paused. The FBI will still come for you. The other families will still want blood. This isn't over. I know, Dante said quietly, but tonight I'm done. She left. The door clicked shut. Silence filled the room. Alara's legs gave out. Dante caught her, held her as delayed shock hit, and she started shaking. It's okay, he murmured. It's over. You're safe. What happens now? Now we deal with the FBI, clean up the mess, start rebuilding. He pulled back to look at her, and we figure out what we actually are, beyond the contract, beyond the arrangement. What do you want us to be? Real, he said simply. Messy and complicated and real. Alara kissed him, soft, brief, a promise. Okay, real. Outside, sirens approached. Federal vehicles. Real ones this time. Coming for statements. For Michael Kane. For the evidence of attempted murder. Coming for the truth. Dante took Ilara's hand. Ready? She looked at the man she'd married, the monster who'd tried to be better, the king learning to kneel. Ready. They walked out together to face whatever came next. Partners. Equals. Something new built from the ashes of lies. And somewhere in the night, Margaret Kane drove away from the estate, phone still in her hand, evidence still unsent, choosing mercy she didn't believe in for a girl who reminded her of every daughter she'd never had. The war wasn't over, but tonight, nobody else had to. The FBI arrived in waves, black SUVs with federal plates, agents in windbreakers that said things like Organized Crime Task Force across the back. They came with warrants and recording equipment and the kind of professional efficiency that came from years of taking down people exactly like Dante Moretti. Ilara watched from the estate's main windows as they flooded the grounds. Counted at least 30 agents, maybe more, all armed, all looking like they'd finally caught the prize they'd been chasing for years. Dante stood beside her, phone pressed to his ear, speaking to lawyers in that clipped tone that meant he was holding back fury. When he hung up, his jaw was so tight she could see the muscle twitching. They have warrants for financial records, property searches, communications logs. He set the phone down carefully, like it might explode if he wasn't gentle. Marcus is on his way. So is every other lawyer I've got on retainer. But this is going to get ugly before it gets better. How ugly? Depends on what they find, what they can prove. He turned to look at her. You should leave, now, before they start questioning everyone in the house, before your name gets attached to this in ways that can't be undone. We already had this conversation. I'm staying. Ilara says, I'm staying. She met his eyes. Whatever happens, we face it together. That's what real means, right? Something in his expression cracked. Relief, maybe. Or gratitude. He pulled her close, pressed his lips to her forehead. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Or the most insane. I haven't decided which. Both, probably. A knock at the door, one of Dante's guards. Sir, the lead agent is asking to speak with you. Dante straightened, the mask sliding back into place. Cold. Controlled. The man who'd built an empire on never showing weakness. Tell them I'll be right there. And send someone to escort Mrs. Moretti to the secured wing. She's not to be disturbed without my lawyer present. Dante, please. He took her hands. Let me protect you in the ways I can. You don't need to watch them tear through my life looking for evidence. You don't need to sit through interrogations about things you know nothing about. What if they ask about us? About the marriage? Tell them the truth. We met through family connections, got married quickly. You don't know anything about my business dealings. His grip tightened. Because you don't. And what you've picked up in the last 2 months? Hearsay. Nothing that holds up in court. You're protecting me. Always. He kissed her. Quick. Fierce. Go. I'll come find you when this is over. The guard led her through corridors to a wing of the estate she'd never seen. Smaller. More private. A sitting room with comfortable furniture and windows that overlooked gardens instead of gates. A guard was posted outside. For her protection or imprisonment, she couldn't tell. Hours passed. Ilara sat on a sofa and listened to footsteps above and below. Voices raised, then muffled. Doors opening and closing, the sounds of an empire being dissected. She tried not to think about Dante alone in some room being grilled by federal agents. Tried not to imagine them laying out evidence, building cases, offering deals in exchange for betrayals. Her phone buzzed. Not Dante. A number she didn't recognize. Against better judgment, she answered. Ilara Vance? A woman's voice, professional, familiar somehow. Who is this? Special Agent Rebecca Martins, actual FBI. I met you briefly when we raided the penthouse, though you were already gone by then. A pause. I wanted to reach out personally, give you some information you deserve to have. I'm not talking to the FBI without a lawyer. I'm not recording this, not official, just one woman to another. The agent's voice softened slightly. Your husband is about to make a very difficult choice, and you should know what that choice is before he makes it. Ilara's stomach dropped. What choice? We've offered him a deal. He provides testimony against the remaining Kane operations, helps us dismantle what's left of Margaret's network. And in exchange, we reduce his charges. He does maybe 5 years instead of 20, keeps some of his assets, gets a chance at a life after prison. And if he doesn't take it, then we prosecute to the fullest extent. RICO charges, racketeering, conspiracy, money laundering. We have enough to put him away until he's an old man. Martin's let that sink in. But here's the thing. The deal requires him to testify within 48 hours, and part of that testimony, he has to provide information about everyone in his organization, including people connected to him through marriage. The room tilted. You want him to give you evidence about my father. We want complete cooperation. That includes details about James Vance's involvement with the Moretti family. What he did, what he knew, how deep the connections went. A pause. I know that's painful, but it's the price of the deal. My father's dead. What does it matter what he did 20 years ago? It establishes pattern, history, shows how the Moretti organization operated across decades. It's important to the case. Martin's voice went gentle. I'm telling you this because Dante's lawyers are going to present the deal to him in the next hour, and he's going to have to choose between protecting your father's legacy or protecting himself. Thought you should know before he makes that call. Why? Why tell me this? Because I've been doing this job for 15 years. I've seen a lot of mob wives. Most of them are complicit, know exactly what their husbands do and profit from it. But you? A long exhale. You walked into this blind, and you don't deserve to get destroyed because you fell for the wrong man. The line went dead. Alara sat frozen, staring at her phone like it had transformed into a weapon. Dante had to choose, his freedom or her father's reputation, 5 years or 20. And she knew with absolute certainty which one he'd pick. The door opened. Marcus Sheffield, looking exhausted and 10 years older than when she'd seen him last. Mrs. Moretti, we need to talk. I already know about the deal. His eyebrows rose. How? Doesn't matter. Where's Dante? In negotiations with the FBI. He asked me to explain the options to you. Get your input before he decides. Marcus sat across from her, pulled out documents. The deal is straightforward, full cooperation, testimony. In exchange, reduced sentence, but the cooperation requirement is extensive. They want everything, including information about your father's role in the organization. What exactly do they want to know? Everything. The jobs he did, the people he worked with, the money he moved, the problems he solved. Marcus's expression was carefully neutral. It won't just damage his reputation. It could open him up to posthumous prosecution. Civil suits from families who claim he harmed them. Your father's name would be dragged through every newspaper in the city. He took a fall once already, protected these people. They're going to make him the villain all over again. Essentially, yes. Alara's hands fisted. And if Dante refuses? If he doesn't give them my father? Then he goes to trial, fights the charges, could win, could lose. If he loses, Marcus shook his head. 20 years minimum, maybe more. But my father's name stays clean. For whatever that's worth. Marcus leaned forward. Mrs. Moretti, I need you to understand something. Dante's going to refuse the deal. He's already made up his mind. He won't destroy your father's reputation to save himself. He'd rather go to prison. The words hit like a physical blow. You're lying. I'm not. I've known Dante since he was a boy. I've seen him make ruthless decisions, cruel decisions. But I've never seen him like this. He loves you, actually loves you. And that means protecting what you love, even if it destroys him. Alara stood, paced, tried to think through the rage and fear clouding her brain. I need to talk to him. He specifically said, I don't care what he said. Take me to him. Now. Marcus studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. But whatever you say to him, it needs to happen fast. The FBI is giving him until midnight to decide. After that, the deal's off the table. They walked through the estate, past agents cataloging art and photographing documents, past guards standing silent and tense, into a conference room where Dante sat surrounded by lawyers and federal agents. He looked up when Alara entered, surprise and something like panic crossing his face. He stood. Alara, you shouldn't— Everyone out, she said, not asking, demanding. The lawyers looked at each other. The FBI agents frowned. But something in her expression made them move. One by one, they filed out, leaving Alara and Dante alone in the room. The door closed. Silence, except for their breathing. You can't refuse the deal, Alara said. Dante's expression went carefully blank. That's not your decision. Like hell it's not. You're my husband. That makes it my decision too. I'm not giving them your father. I won't do it. Why? Because you feel guilty? Because you think you owe him? She moved closer. He's dead, Dante. Whatever they say about him now doesn't change who he was, doesn't erase the good he did. It makes him into a criminal, a collaborator. Everything he wasn't. He was those things. The admission tore out of her. I've read the files, seen the evidence. My father worked for your family for 20 years. He made problems disappear. He wasn't innocent. He was just good at hiding it. He was a good man who did what he had to do to survive. And so are you. Her voice broke. You're a good man in a terrible world trying to do better. And I'm not letting you throw away your life to protect a memory. Dante's control cracked. He saved me, gave me a chance when no one else would. I owe him everything. You don't owe him this. You don't owe him your freedom. She grabbed his face, made him look at her. Take the deal. Give them what they want. Serve your time. Then come back to me. 5 years, Alara. 5 years minimum. I'll wait. You shouldn't have to. That's not your choice to make. Tears burned her eyes. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Choosing a future where you're alive and free instead of rotting in prison for decades because you're too stubborn to save yourself. If I give them your father, you'll hate me. If you don't take this deal, I'll hate myself. She pressed her forehead to his. Please, please take it. For me, for us, for whatever we're building here. His hands came up to grip her waist, shaking. I don't know if I can. You can. You're the strongest person I know. She pulled back to look at him. My father would want this, would want you to survive, to protect me the only way you can now, by staying alive and coming back. Dante's eyes were wet. She'd never seen him cry. Never thought she would. I'm so sorry for all of it, for dragging you into this, for falling in love with you when I had no right. Don't apologize for loving me. That's the only thing you've done that doesn't need forgiveness. She kissed him. Salt and desperation and promises that might break. Take the deal, please. For a long moment, he just held her, face buried in her hair, breathing like it hurt. Then quietly, okay, I'll take it. I'll give them what they want. He pulled back, wiped his eyes roughly. But you need to know what that means. The media, the trials, your father's name in every headline, people calling him a criminal, calling you the daughter of a mobster. I know. And you're okay with that? No. But I'm okay with you alive. That's what matters. He kissed her again, longer this time, memorizing, like he was trying to hold on to something that was already slipping away. When they broke apart, he called the lawyers back in, told them to accept the deal, watched as they drew up papers and made calls and set in motion the machinery that would trade his testimony for reduced time. By midnight, it was done. Signed. Official. Dante Moretti would cooperate fully with the FBI's investigation into organized crime, would provide testimony about the Moretti family operations spanning 3 decades, would disclose information about everyone who'd worked with or for the organization, including James Vance. In exchange, he'd plead guilty to reduced charges, serve 5 to 7 years in a federal facility, keep a portion of his assets for when he was released. And Alara would wait. The news broke the next morning. Every outlet in the city running variations of the same headline. Moretti Empire falls. Notorious crime boss takes plea deal. Alara watched from the estate as reporters gathered outside the gates. Cameras and microphones and people shouting questions no one would answer. Inside, FBI agents continued their work, cataloging, documenting, dismantling an empire piece by piece. Dante had 48 hours before he had to surrender, 2 days to settle his affairs, say goodbye, prepare for 5 years of prison. They spent the first day with lawyers, going through financial arrangements, setting up trusts, ensuring Alara would be taken care of. Dante signed over the penthouse to her name. The estate, too. Enough assets to keep her comfortable without making her a target. You'll be safe, he kept saying. Like he needed to believe it. The deal includes protection. FBI will make sure no one retaliates against you for my cooperation. I don't care about safe. I care about you. I'll be fine. Federal prison's not great, but I've survived worse. Have you? He didn't answer that. The second day they spent alone. No lawyers, no FBI, just the two of them in the estate that felt more like a mausoleum than a home. They walked the grounds, past gardens Dante said his mother had planted before she died, past the garage full of cars he'd never driven, past everything that represented the life he'd built and was about to lose. Tell me about after, Alara said as they stood at the edge of the property, looking out over hills that rolled into forever. After what? After you get out. What do you want? Dante was quiet for a long time. I don't know. I've spent my whole life building this empire, maintaining power, playing the game. I don't know who I am without it. You're the man who saved me from drowning in debt, who married me when I had nothing to offer, who broke every rule for someone he barely knew. She took his hand. That's who you are. And that's who I'll be waiting for. You might not recognize me when I get out. Prison changes people. So does love. We'll figure it out together. He pulled her close, held her like the world was ending. Maybe it was. That night they broke the final rule. No intimacy had been the agreement, no physical relationship. But rules meant nothing anymore. Not when tomorrow he'd be gone. They made love in the master bedroom, in the massive bed that had probably seen generations of Moretti's, but had never seen anything like this. Desperate and tender and real in ways that burned away every lie they'd told themselves about what this marriage was. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets that cost more than most people's rent, Alara traced the scars on his chest. Bullet wounds. Knife fights. A whole history written in violence on his skin. Tell me a secret, she whispered. Something no one else knows. Dante's fingers played with her hair. When I was 17 and your father saved me, I was trying to get myself killed. On purpose. I'd just watched my father murder someone in cold blood. Watched him smile while he did it. And I realized that's what I was going to become. So I picked a fight with people I couldn't beat. Hoped they'd finish it. But my father stopped them. He stopped them, took me to his workshop, patched me up. And while he worked, he told me about you. About his daughter, who was smart and stubborn and going to do something better than we ever did. He said, I'm keeping you alive because the world needs fewer men like my boss and more men who fight to be different. Dante's voice roughed. I've been trying to be different ever since. Failing mostly, but trying. Alara's throat tightened. He saw something in you worth saving. Maybe. Or maybe he just couldn't walk past someone dying. Dante turned to look at her. What about you? Tell me a secret. I'm terrified. The admission spilled out. Terrified of you leaving. Terrified of 5 years alone. Terrified that you'll come back different and we won't fit anymore. We'll fit. Maybe not the same way, but we'll figure it out. Promise? I promise. He kissed her. 5 years. Then I'm coming back to you. And we're going to build something new. Something clean. No empire, no power games, just us. Just us, she repeated, and tried to believe it. Morning came too soon. Federal marshals arrived at dawn, professional, polite, but carrying handcuffs and wearing expressions that said they'd done this 1,000 times. Dante dressed in a simple suit, no tie, no jewelry except his wedding ring. He looked at himself in the mirror and Alara saw him trying to find the man he used to be underneath the criminal the world saw. Ready? She asked. No, but I don't think I ever will be. They walked downstairs together. The marshals waited in the foyer. One of them stepped forward. Mr. Moretti, it's time. Dante nodded, turned to Alara. I love you. Remember that. When it gets hard, when you're alone, when you start doubting, I love you, and I'm coming back. I love you too. First time she'd said it out loud. The words felt too big for her mouth, too important to trust to air. Come back to me. Always. He kissed her one last time, then let the marshals cuff him, lead him out to the waiting car. She watched from the doorway as they put him in the back seat, watched as the car pulled away down the long drive, watched until it disappeared through the gates and there was nothing left but empty road and the echo of goodbye. Alara stood there until Marie found her and gently led her back inside. What do I do now? She asked, voice numb, distant. Now you live, Marie said simply. You survive. You build a life worth coming back to.
That's how you honor what he gave up. So Alara lived. The first month was hardest, learning to exist in the massive estate alone. FBI agents still coming and going, finishing their investigation. Media camped outside asking for statements. Lawyers calling with documents to sign.
And letters. Dante sent letters, carefully worded, knowing someone would read them. But underneath the neutral language, she could read his actual meaning. He was surviving, counting days, thinking of her. She wrote back, told him about clearing out the penthouse, about selling the art and the cars, about donating his suits to charity because seeing them in the closet hurt too much. Told him about going back to the house, her father's house, hers now, free and clear, about standing in the living room where she'd grown up and finally crying for everything lost. Told him about the memorial she'd held for her father. Small, private, just her and a few people who'd actually known him. Marcus came. Marie came. Even Serafina showed up, wearing black and saying nothing but standing beside Alara like silent support. Margaret Kane sent flowers. No card. Just white lilies and the ghost of apology. The second month, Alara started working. Real work. Not for the Moretti organization that was being systematically dismantled, assets seized or redistributed, but for a non-profit that helped families of incarcerated people. She understood their pain now, the waiting, the guilt, the loneliness. She was good at it, helping people navigate a system designed to break them, found purpose in the wreckage. The third month, she visited Dante for the first time. Federal facility, 3 hours north. Concrete and wire and guards who searched her 3 times before letting her through. He looked different, thinner, hair shorter. But his eyes were the same when he saw her. Everything he couldn't say written in gray and silver. They had 30 minutes. Sat across from each other at a metal table with a guard watching. Couldn't touch. Could barely talk without feeling like they were performing for surveillance. "You look good," he said. Meaning, you look alive and that's enough. "You look terrible," she replied. Meaning, I miss you so much it's killing me. 4 years and 8 months left, give or take. I'm counting too. They talked about nothing. Everything. The weather, the news. Carefully avoiding anything that mattered because mattering meant breaking. When time was up, Alara stood. "See you next month." "I'll be here," a ghost of his smile. "Not like I'm going anywhere." She left. Made it to her car before falling apart. Cried until she had nothing left. Then drove home and added another tally to the calendar on her wall. 1 visit down, approximately 60 to go. The first year crawled, then suddenly flew. Alara filled her days with work and visits and slowly rebuilding herself into someone who could exist without him. She sold the estate. Too big, too empty, too full of ghosts. Bought a smaller house closer to the city. Something manageable. Something that felt like hers instead of his. Kept only a few things from his old life, photos, letters, his wedding ring. He'd given it to her before surrendering, saying, "Keep it safe until I can wear it again." The second year was easier. She'd found her rhythm. Work, visits, living. Dante was different too. The hard edges smoothing. Prison was grinding him down, but also stripping away the armor he'd worn for decades. In their visits, they talked more honestly than they ever had outside. About his father, the abuse, the pressure to become something he hated, about her mother, the loss, growing up too fast, about mistakes and regrets and things they'd do different if given the chance. "I don't want the empire back," he told her during one visit. Second year, 7th month. "When I get out, I mean, I don't want any of it." "What do you want?" "Small, quiet, you." He looked at her through the scratched plexiglass. "That's enough. That's all I want too." Year 3, Margaret Kane died. Heart attack. Alone in the home she'd lived in for 40 years. Alara read the obituary and felt sad for a woman who'd spent her final years drowning in grief and rage. She went to the funeral. Small service. Almost no one there except Margaret's lawyer and a handful of distant relatives who looked uncomfortable. Alara placed flowers on the casket. "I forgive you," she whispered. "I hope you found peace." Year 4, Serafina got married. To someone outside the life. A doctor. Normal. Safe. She invited Alara to the wedding. "I want you to know," Serafina said at the reception, champagne making her honest. I hated you when you first showed up. Hated that Dante chose you, but watching how you've survived this, how you've stayed loyal while building your own life. She raised her glass. You're stronger than any of us, including him. I'm just doing what I have to do. No, you're doing what most people couldn't. Serafina clinked their glasses. He's lucky to have you. Make sure he knows that when he gets out. I will. Year 5 came faster than Alara expected. Suddenly, she was marking days in single digits instead of hundreds. 30 days until release. 20. 10. She prepared, cleaned the house, stocked the fridge, tried to imagine what it would be like having him back, living together, being married for real instead of through letters and supervised visits. The night before his release, she couldn't sleep, lay in bed staring at the ceiling and wondering if 5 years had changed him too much. Changed them both too much. But when morning came, she drove to the facility and waited outside the gates with a dozen other families. At 9 a.m. exactly, the doors opened. Men started coming out, blinking in sunlight, carrying plastic bags with their belongings, looking for faces they'd spent years imagining, and then Dante. He stepped through those gates and stopped. Just stopped and looked at her like he couldn't believe she was real. Alara ran, closed the distance between them, threw herself into his arms and held on like drowning. He held her back, lifted her off the ground, buried his face in her hair. You came, he breathed. Of course I came, I promised. 5 years. You waited 5 years. I'd have waited 10. She pulled back to look at him, thinner, older, gray at his temples now, but his eyes were clearer than she'd ever seen them. Welcome home. Take me there, wherever home is now. Just take me. They drove in silence, hands clasped between them, both trying to remember how to exist in the same space. When they pulled up to the house, small, normal, nothing like the estate, Dante stared. This is it? This is it? 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, yard that needs mowing, very boring and suburban. It's perfect. Inside, he walked through rooms like a museum, touching things. Her furniture, her books, pictures on the walls, some of her father, some of them from visits, one of their courthouse wedding that she'd had framed. He stopped at that one. You kept this. Of course I kept it. It's where everything started. Everything good or everything complicated? Both. She came up behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist. Are you okay? I don't know. Ask me in a few days when this feels real. They ordered pizza because neither of them could think about cooking. Ate on the couch while Dante told her about the last week. The processing, the exit interviews, the moment he got his belongings back and realized his old life fit in a plastic bag. What do you want to do now? Alara asked. For work, for life, for everything. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm 42 years old and I've never had a normal job. Never lived without power and money backing every move. He set down his pizza. I'm terrified I'll be useless. You're not useless. You're just learning to be different. What if I can't? What if I'm too broken? Then we'll be broken together. She took his hand. I'm not the same person who married you 5 years ago. I'm harder, more cynical. I've seen things and learned things, and I don't fit neatly into the world anymore either. So we're both disasters. Perfectly matched disasters. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound rusty but real. I missed you. Every single day. Every single hour. I missed you too. She leaned against him. But we're here now. We made it. We made it, he repeated, like testing the words. So what now? Now we figure out what normal looks like. Together. Normal, it turned out, was harder than either of them expected. Dante had nightmares. Would wake up gasping, disoriented, reaching for weapons that weren't there. Alara would hold him until the shaking stopped, until he remembered where he was. He struggled with the quiet, with not having people to command or problems to solve, with being nobody instead of someone feared and respected. But slowly, he adjusted, found work with a construction company, using skills his father had taught him before everything went dark. The labor was honest, hard, left him exhausted in ways that felt clean. Alara kept her job with the nonprofit, kept helping families navigate the system that had swallowed Dante and spit him back, changed. They went to therapy, together and separate, talked through trauma and guilt and all the ways loving each other had nearly destroyed them, learned to be married for real, fighting about dishes and bills and whose turn it was to mow the lawn. Small problems, normal problems, problems that didn't involve bullets or blood. 6 months after his release, they had a second wedding. Nothing like the courthouse ceremony. This time in the backyard of her father's house, surrounded by people who actually cared. Marie was there. Marcus. Some of Ilara's co-workers, a few of Dante's construction crew who'd become actual friends. Serafina came with her husband, stood as a witness, said, "I'm glad you two found your way back to each other. Proof that some things actually work out." They exchanged new rings, simpler than the originals. No diamonds or platinum, just silver bands they'd picked out together. "I, Dante Moretti, take you, Ilara Vance." "Moretti," she corrected. "I kept the name. Earned it." He smiled. "Ilara Moretti, I take you as my wife, not because of obligation or debt or guilt, but because I choose you, every day, for the rest of my life." "I, Ilara Moretti, take you, Dante. I choose you too. Your past, your damage, your attempts to be better, all of it." They kissed as husband and wife for the second time. But this time it meant something. This time it was real. The reception was potluck in the backyard. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just people eating and talking and celebrating something fragile that had survived against all odds. Later, after everyone left and they were cleaning up paper plates and plastic cups, Dante stopped. "What?" Ilara asked. "I'm happy." He said it like a confession, like something dangerous. "For the first time in my life, I'm actually happy." "Good. You deserve it." "Do I?" "Yeah, you do. You paid your debt to society, to my father, to everyone. You're allowed to be happy now." He pulled her close, swayed to music that wasn't playing. "Thank you." "For what?" "For waiting, for believing, for loving me when I didn't deserve it. You always deserved it. You just couldn't see it." They stood there in the backyard of a house that had seen too much pain and was finally seeing joy. Two broken people who'd found each other in darkness and chosen to walk toward light. It wasn't perfect. Some days Dante still woke up expecting guards and concrete. Some days Ilara still felt the weight of those 5 years pressing on her chest. But they were together. They were real. They were building something new from the ashes of an empire that had burned. A year after his release, they found out Ilara was pregnant. She told him over breakfast. Just said it straight. "I'm pregnant?" Dante dropped his coffee cup, caught it before it hit the floor, stared at her. "What?" "Pregnant, about 8 weeks. I took 3 tests to be sure." He stood, sat back down, stood again. "We're having a baby." "Yeah, we are. How do you feel about that?" "Terrified, excited, like I might throw up." He came around the table, knelt in front of her, put his hands on her stomach, even though there was nothing to feel yet. "A baby. Our baby. Are you okay with this? I know we didn't plan. I'm more than okay. His voice cracked. "I never thought I'd get this. Family. Normal. A future that isn't just survival." "Well, you're getting it, so you better be ready." "I'm not ready. I have no idea how to be a father." "Good. Neither of us knows what we're doing. We'll figure it out together." Their daughter was born on a Tuesday in March. 7 pounds, dark hair, eyes that would eventually turn the same gray as her father's. They named her Grace, after nothing and everything, just because it felt right. Dante held her in the hospital room and cried. "I don't know how to do this." "No one does," Ilara said. "You just love her and try not to break her." "What if I'm like my father? What if I—" "You're not. You're nothing like him. You're the man who gave up everything to do the right thing, who chose honesty over power. That's who you are. That's who she'll know." He looked at the tiny human in his arms. "I promise," he whispered to Grace. "I promise I'll be better. I'll give you everything I never had. Safety, honesty, choice. You'll never have to be afraid of me." The baby yawned, utterly unimpressed by dramatic vows. Ilara laughed. "I think she's already judging you." "She should. I'm a disaster." "You're her father. That's all that matters." They brought Grace home to the small house with the yard that still needed mowing, set up the nursery in what used to be Dante's office, learned to function on no sleep and constant worry. Marie visited, brought gifts and food, and the kind of practical advice that only came from raising children. "You'll be fine," she assured them, while Grace screamed for reasons none of them could decipher. "All parents feel incompetent. The secret is loving them anyway." Marco sent a card. "Congratulations." And underneath, in his careful handwriting, "Your father would be proud." Alara put it on the fridge next to Grace's ultrasound photos and the wedding picture from the backyard ceremony. Months became years. Grace learned to walk, to talk, to have opinions about everything. Dante was a nervous father, constantly worried he'd mess up. But watching him read bedtime stories and make silly faces and let Grace paint his nails because she asked, Alara knew he was exactly the father their daughter needed. They bought a bigger house, still modest, still normal, but with room for Grace to grow and maybe siblings someday. Dante's construction company promoted him to foreman. He was good at leading people without intimidation, good at building things instead of destroying them. Alara made director of her nonprofit, expanded their services, helped hundreds of families navigate systems designed to break them. They lived, quietly, intentionally, building a life so different from where they started that sometimes it felt like a dream, but it wasn't a dream. It was real. Messy and complicated and imperfect and real. On their 8th anniversary, counting from the courthouse, not the backyard, they drove to the cemetery, brought flowers for James Vance's grave. The headstone was simple. His name, dates, beloved father. Nothing about what he'd done or who he'd worked for, just the essential truth. Dante knelt, placed the flowers. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for saving me, for giving me Alara, for showing me there was another way." A pause. "I'm trying to live up to that. Some days I fail, but I'm trying." Alara stood beside him. "He'd be proud of you, of us, of what we built." "You think?" "I know. He always believed people could be better than their circumstances. You're living proof." They stood there for a while. 3 people connected across life and death. A father who'd sacrificed everything. A man who'd learned to be more than his violence. A daughter who'd chosen love over safety. "Ready to go home?" Alara asked eventually. "Yeah." Dante stood, took her hand. "Let's go home." They drove back to their life. To Grace waiting with Marie. To dinner that needed cooking and laundry that needed folding and all the beautiful, boring details of normal. That night, after Grace was asleep and the house was quiet, Dante pulled out a box. Old, worn. Alara had never seen it before. "What's that?" "Something I kept from the old life. Only thing besides the wedding ring." He opened it. Inside was a letter, yellowed, creased from being folded and unfolded countless times. "From your father?" she asked. "From mine. He wrote it the night before he died. Heart attack in his sleep, like he knew." Dante pulled out the letter. "I've read it maybe twice in 8 years. Never knew what to do with it." "What does it say?" "That he was sorry. That he'd built an empire on blood and brutality, and he knew it would destroy me. That he hoped I'd be strong enough to walk away from it, to choose something better." Dante's voice roughed. He said, "You're my son and I love you, but don't be me. Be better, even if it costs you everything." He wanted you to change. "Yeah, it took me another 20 years and losing everything to actually do it, but I got there." He refolded the letter carefully. "I want to show this to Grace someday, when she's old enough. Want her to know that people can change, that you're not trapped by who your father was. We'll tell her everything, who we were, what we did, how we found our way out. Think she'll understand? I think she'll love us anyway. That's what kids do." Dante put the letter away, turned to her. "I love you. I don't say it enough, but I do. You saved me in every way a person can be saved." "We saved each other." Alara kissed him. "That's how this works." They went to bed in their normal house, in their normal life. 2 people who'd survived war and prison and the weight of empires built on suffering. And somewhere in the darkness, in the space between sleeping and waking, Alara heard her father's voice one last time. Not real, just memory, just love echoing across the distance. You're stronger than you know. She'd believed him, and she'd been right. Outside, the city stretched toward morning, full of people making choices, building lives, surviving. And in one small house on a quiet street, a family slept. Imperfect, damaged, real. No empire, no power, no violence, just love. Stubborn and scarred and refusing to die, just them. And that was enough. That was everything. The end.